Alrighty, welcome to episode 112 of Talk With Ask Us Anything. As usual, it's been a pretty busy news week. Ratings agency S&P have raised Tesla's rating from the junk grade of BB plus to an investment grade of BBB. In doing so, S&P stated that Tesla Inc.'s reported production and deliveries for the 9 months ended September 30, 2022 were higher than our expectations, and the ramp up in its global capacity appears to be on track to meet the strong demand for its products in 2023. We now view Tesla's credit profile more favourably because it continues to demonstrate market leadership in electric vehicles with solid manufacturing efficiency that supports strong EBITDA margins and sustainable positive free operating cash flow above our previously established upside triggers. As described in a tweet posted by Elon Musk, Tesla has begun production of the much anticipated Tesla Semi-Prime Mover and is expected to start deliveries to Pepsi in the US at the beginning of December. Giga Shanghai has produced a record 82,088 cars in September. At an annualized rate of nearly 1 million, Giga Shanghai is poised to single-handedly produce more cars per annum than all of Tesla produced last year. Tesla have confirmed by text messages to many Model Y order holders that the performance versions of the model are expected to be delivered in Q1 next year between January and March. And that was this week's news. And yes, it was. So welcome everyone. If anyone is new, please feel free to pipe up and say hello and tell us about your awesome car or order.
Hello, I'm Colin. I've watched a few of these,
Hey, Colin.
but this is the first time I've really spoken up. I've had my Model 3 for about 6 weeks now. I've got a white one with the white interior. Very happy with it.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
I do have some questions. I don't know if now's the right time or if we'll do some more introductions first.
Yeah, sure. Let's try for some more introductions if there are some, and then I'll get straight back to you as the first question asker. Anyone else that's new that would like to say hello? Nope,
I have been before, but I'll say hello. Jean's mine.
Hi, Jean. Welcome back.
Welcome
two.
Back. Yeah, I've got a red Model 3. It'll be its 3rd birthday next week.
Fantastic. Congratulations. And yeah, as I said before, welcome back. Anyone else that's new want to say hello before we get to questions from Colin? Nope, I'm going to take that as a no, but if anyone does pop up, yeah, please do say hello. So Colin, first question, go.
It's a charging question. So mine's rear-wheel drive's got the LFP battery, and the manual says charge it to 100% at least once a week. But what I wasn't sure about was, do I keep it plugged in and just let it maintain 100% for the whole week if I'm, not driving for the week?
Well, you can. There's nothing wrong with doing that.
I guess the question is really about, am I causing damage to the battery?
No. So Tesla's stated policy is that the LFP has no issue whatsoever being at 100%. And it is interesting wording how they do say it. They recommend to charge it to 100% at least once a week or once a week. You shouldn't take that as a maximum, even a minimum, really, to be honest. They're just saying it's just great to charge it 100%. So look, I wouldn't be concerned about leaving it at 100 plugged in.
Yep.
If you really have a worry about it, you could always just set it to 90 if you're going to leave it plugged in for a long time. But the truth is, once it gets to 100%, it'll basically stay there for quite a while before it actually recharges up every now and then as it you get a little bit of vampire drain. But the cars these days, unless you've got Sentry mode turned on at home or wherever it's parked, you'll lose very little energy.
I've turned that off. I've learned that mistake of leaving Sentry mode on in the garage.
Yes, so that's
300 centiunits.
Yes, so you're going to lose about 6 kilowatt hours in a 24-hour period, which is going to cost you, to a couple of dollars a day,
Yeah.
or $1.50, whatever it is, depending on how much you pay. So yeah, that's a great tip. I've got a higher Model Y, and yeah, it's burning through 6 kilowatt hours every day just sitting in the underground car park. But it's
Oh,
worth
I
it.
do have a question about Sentry Mode being on. So I've got a trip to the UK coming up in a few weeks, and I've got to leave the car at the airport. I don't feel comfortable leaving the car at the airport with Sentry Mode turned off, but I also don't want to come back with no battery, with no charge. Um,
Well, you
what?
won't. What'll happen is Sentry Mode will consume, uh, let's call it 6 kilowatt hours. So that's, well, nearly 10% of the battery per day. So after 8 days
Yep.
or so, depending, it will get down to 20%, in which case the car will automatically turn Sentry Mode off. That's not fantastic, because what it also does is turns off the 12-volt charging system for your 12-volt battery. Which, sorry, did you say how old's your car, Colin?
6 weeks.
Oh, okay. In which case it'll have a lithium ion battery, which is actually pretty good, but still, it's not a fantastic thing to happen. So, um, there are places, I forget what it was called, but there is a place that actually offers uh, a service whereby they'll plug the car in. It's
Oh yeah.
right next to the airport. It's one of the long-term parking areas.
Yep.
But I think it's like a valet parking service, and they do charge for it. But
Yeah.
that will then keep your car plugged in. The other alternative is just leave it at home and catch an Uber to the airport.
Yeah. That's probably the easier answer. Yeah.
Yeah, I probably. How long are you going for?
7 days.
Oh, well, look, if it's only a week, it's up to
Should be
you.
fine. Yeah.
Look, your car will be fine in a week. It might
Seven.
eventually on the seventh day get down to maybe 20% or something like that, maybe. Look, you could pick your poison if you feel that the area you're in, like, you can manually turn Sentry Mode on and off, so you could maybe give it a break during the daytime or something like that if you think it's less
Okay.
likely
Yeah.
that something's going to happen. Um, yeah, or just get an Uber.
Yeah. Does
Yeah,
the
that's
have an
what I
urban-
do when I'm going to the airport. I leave my car parked in the garage, plugged in at whatever percentage, and I grab an Uber. And where I am, it's about $100 for an Uber to the airport. But I think it's easier, especially seeing I go away for 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah, I'm not going to leave the car at the airport for that long.
Absolutely. Any other questions, Colin, that you've got
I
since you're on a roll?
have one about the rate of charge. So at home, I just charge with the mobile connector at 15 amps. But nearby, I have because I'm in Adelaide, I have a free 45 kilowatt charger, and I guess the question is charging at the higher speeds bad for the battery? Because I could choose to do that every 3 or 4 days instead of just charging at home.
The
You
short
say it's
answer,
a 45 kilowatt charger.
Sorry?
A 45.
Yeah, it's either
Kilowatt.
50. The max I ever get on it is 45.
yeah, so it's a
Yeah.
Tritium RT, so it's a 50
Yep.
kilowatt fast DC charger.
That's not
Look,
going to
the-
affect it.
The short answer is
Yeah, I know
it just
supercharging is
depends.
bad.
Look, supercharging is not fantastic in the very, very, very long term, compared to slow charging. But having said that, it might make a 10% difference to battery degradation after a couple of 100,000 kilometers. So the
It's
short
not really
answer is,
something to
so
worry
what?
about, is it?
Yeah, life's too short to worry about it. And your car is not an oil painting. It's not a appreciating asset, although these days they kind of are. But in the long term, it's not an appreciating asset or an oil painting. It's something to be used and consumed, over time. So if it better aligns with your lifestyle to just have the convenience of fast charging it either regularly or every now and then or whatever, then just do that.
Yeah.
And be assured that 50 kilowatts is nothing like as severe or as stressful to the battery as, say, a 250 kilowatt supercharge.
Yeah.
So, look, just enjoy your car and don't let your method of charging impinge on your enjoyment of the car. I mean, if you're happy to have it trickle charging at home and that's convenient because you mostly leave home at 100% and that's great, then just keep doing that. But if it's getting a bit dreary and you just want to use the fast charger because it's free or it's convenient, just do that too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I try not to be too precious about the car. I've already been in a car accident since I got it, which wasn't nice.
Did you get it on dash cam?
No, I had just switched over the hard drive in the morning, and I didn't check to see that the dash cam was working, and it wasn't working. It started working about an hour after the accident.
Well, of course it did, because everything's over.
Yeah, it's
that's
probably
no
not a
good.
problem. The other driver admitted fault. They just weren't looking when they turned, and but at least the car's still drivable. But no repairs till January. All booked out in South Australia. There's only 2 authorized repairers. So,
We had the same thing in Perth, but now we've got about four, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
maybe I should do a drive to Perth.
I do it. Like everyone else is. It's the flavour of the month. Since Pete and I did a little lap a few weeks ago, every man and their dog wants to do it. Sometimes a man and their dog.
It's definitely tempting, but I don't think the missus would be okay with that. Just me disappearing for a few weeks.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that your missus would object to her having to go along with you, in which case you just go solo.
We could sit in the same car for 3 weeks, 3 weeks. That's a big ask.
Well, this is Ask Us Anything. This isn't Relationships Australia. This is a different podcast.
I definitely want to put on my to-do list. So I am looking forward to giving that a go.
Well, ask the gentleman in the mustard jumper whether he thinks it was worth doing. Hey, Pete.
Absolutely. Yeah. I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. I spent the first 3 or 4 days stressing, and then I really enjoyed it. Yeah. No, it was a great adventure. I learned a bucket load. I'm really glad I did it.
Yeah, you basically go from not really knowing that much about your car to effectively knowing everything about it. It really is a great experience. So Colin, definitely think about it, or at least have it as an aspirational goal. I mean, one great thing is, say by the end of next year, WA will have charges from Eucla, actually possibly not Eucla, but well, for the sake of argument, let's just say Eucla to Perth to Kununurra. So you'll be able to do all the legs in WA on fast DC charging. There is a little bit of debate about the timing of Eucla and a couple of other charges on the Nullarbor. And I believe the South Australian government has also got plans for fast DC charges, and they're starting to be deployed, or they're about to be rolled out progressively. Although there might be a small gap across your section of the Nullarbor towards Border Village, where it seems they might only be AC charges. But still, out of Adelaide, you've got Clare Supercharger, and definitely Port Augusta and Ceduna will definitely have fast DC charging. So then your only gap is the Northern Territory, and also Queensland are rolling out fast DC charges across central Queensland, and the first one's already been commissioned in Longreach. So in about a year's or 18 months' time, it'll be much more doable than it is currently, and a lot easier and quicker.
Yeah.
Cool. So you got any other questions about your car, or anyone else wants to pipe up and ask a question or some questions?
Yeah, I'm all out of questions. I do want to say that I am loving the latest update with the trip energy meter. And I understand the car a bit better, like just driving home 5K slower, how much of a difference that made to my energy usage it's really nice to know and to watch.
So that's the new update,
36.2.
My 2 Ys in Perth have got it, but I'm not there to drive it. And the car I'm renting has got the download symbol, so I could tether the car to my phone. But then, of course, it allows the the owner to actually I could leave that switch off. You know, where you can actually view your your Sentry mode footage or cameras. But I
Wow.
believe you have to turn that on in the screen before it works.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, in that case, I might download that update and enjoy the energy meter. You're right, Colin. You know, you said that if you drop 5Ks, it'll show you how much energy you've saved. The rule of thumb is for every 10% that you drop, you get a compounding approximately 14% gain in range. So it actually makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And obviously, when you're on AC charging, the limiting factor of your amount of time you have to spend by the side of the road is the charging rate, and therefore you need to sort of try and match your consumption of energy to your replenishment, and that basically means traveling at about 80 k's an hour as the ideal, or maybe a little bit slower. But that's just one of those things you have to sort of do when you're out in the middle of nowhere.
I
But
do find I'm much happier to go slower with autopilot turned on.
yeah, absolutely. And it also takes away that urge to speed because it sort of feels like you're somewhat being chauffeur driven, which is quite relaxing. Until or unless, of course, you get a divide in the road and the car decides to do interesting things. But it breaks up the journey a bit, makes it more interesting. Alrighty. So has anyone else got any other questions or comments? We've had a fair bit in the news. Obviously, we only had 4 items that I put in the news because there's a lot of other items that, well, while they were newsworthy, they're not necessarily relevant to us. I mean, for instance, you've got deliveries of models S and X coming into Europe, and also I think it was a couple of Model S's, or at least one Model S spotted in China, which is sort of interesting. But that means nothing for Australia because we're right-hand drive, and there's just no sign of models S or X in Australia.
I've
Has
got a
anyone?
question for you, Harold.
Yes, Russell.
Sorry, I was late. Firstly, I missed all the preamble. I'm sure I missed a lot. I can watch it back on YouTube, I'm sure. I wouldn't mind if could you head to the Model Y page and share your screen and go down to the bottom where the specifications are. I just had a question that you might be able to help out with.
Yes. I actually keep a fairly close eye on some of that stuff for various reasons. One news item, Russell, I don't know if you were there for the news, was that the Model Y performance cars, they've got confirmed deliveries of between January and March, which
Yes, I got a text message.
obviously, oh, great, awesome. So I wasn't fibbing when I said in the news that Tesla had told many order holders via text messages. All right,
I think that was
getting.
expected anyway from what the
absolutely.
word on the street was. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'll just go into Australia and I'll bring it up on screen share in 2 seconds. Okay, it should be ready. Model Y custom order.
Can you just scroll down to the bottom?
Yeah,
no,
sure.
Not on the sorry, not on the order page, on the actual info page.
Apologies. Yeah, got you. No worries. Look at that. It thinks I'm in Queensland. Maybe that's because I am. Okay, just scrolling to this. Oh, sorry, got to go learn more. SX.
Yeah. All right. So down the bottom where the spexy bits are.
Yep.
Yeah. Up a bit. Sorry. Next little bit up. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. So on here, when you select, just scroll. Yep. The performance.
Yes.
It says there 250 kilowatt max, and then when you click on rear wheel drive, it says 170 kilowatt max. Can you explain what's going on there?
You mean the supercharging?
Yeah. So is that always been
Yes.
the case that LFPs don't charge as
Yes.
fast?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Correct.
so the so the reason is that the performance is the NCA chemistry, and the standard range is LFP, lithium iron phosphate. So It's actually, and it's funny because that 170 kilowatt max is dead on correct, because I literally saw my car for, I wouldn't call it a split second. It might have been 1 or 2 seconds. It showed 170 kilowatts, and then it went to 169 for some seconds, and then started tapering off.
Okay.
I don't think it's that accurate, actually, Harold, because mine read 171.
Ah, well, there you go. You got an extra one on me, Nigel. So
So how does it compare to, so when you put in, like my car, for example, I've got an NCA battery in my Model 3.
Yep.
If you look at the percentage versus the, like, how much you can put in, so if we're both at, say, 90% charge, would the comparable amount of energy going in be the same, or it's still going to be, like, proportionally reduced?
no,
The
well,
LFPs are actually really good at maintaining a fairly high charge at a fairly high state of charge level.
Yeah.
So yeah, even at 98%, you know, on a supercharger, there's still, you know, putting in over a, you know,
100.
no, it was 30. No, it was 30 something kilowatts, I think, at 98%, which,
So
yeah,
if
which is
we say 90,
pretty
if we
high.
say 95 or 98, do you think an NCA would effectively have the same ability to charge at that rate?
Oh,
You know what I mean? Comparable?
I don't know, to be honest, because I don't have a modern NCA car to compare it with yet.
Okay. Do you remember, Pete,
to be
when you did yours? When you did your Model 3, that test you did? Pete, you there?
oh, sorry, Russell.
Starlink to Pete.
Okay.
Starlink to Pete.
No.
Remember when you did your testing and you did the incremental time measurements
Yes.
and stuff? Did you jot down the charge rate, like the actual kilowatts you were getting in at each point in time as well, or just the duration?
No, I did, yeah.
Do you remember what your battery was getting at, like 90 or 95%?
No, but I can find out.
I've got my charging curve graph here that I did when I got my Model Y with the LFP batteries that I can share if you like.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, go on, let's have a look at that.
Can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I got it right down to about 8% and it hit 171. Didn't hold it for very long, obviously,
Yep.
and then came crashing down, but it held at about 100 and whatever that was, 118 for quite a long time, but from 15-20% all the way up to about 45. And then it was just a very slow, steady decline to 95-96%. It dropped right down, and that was when it was calibrating or whatever it says. It took it about 12-15 minutes to calibrate before it finally decided to stop. So that was the charging curve that I got at. I started, as I said, about 8%, and I went all the way to 100, and that actually took about an hour and 10. But then the last 15 minutes was this calibrating at 99%.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I wonder if the NCA batteries just peak higher for the first, say, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, and then they come down to a similar, like...
They do.
Yeah, okay.
When Alex, he's not here tonight, typical. Alex and I, we drove down to Bunbury. He's got the LFP battery Model 3. I've got the NCA battery Model 3. And we put them both onto charge at the same level and made a note at every, well, we did it at 20, 30, 40, 50, all the way up to 90. And mine hit a higher charge rate to start off with and dropped off quicker. His LFP battery didn't hit quite so high, but maintained a level, and mine was going down and his was going steady. So they crossed. Mine continued to go down, but his maintained the level and then dropped off at the end. And it turned out that to go from 20 to 90% in the LFP took 30 minutes, and to go from 20 to 90% in my NCA took 31 minutes.
But I guess the NCA has more capacity as well, though. I mean,
Yes,
that's a bigger
that's
battery
right.
too, right?
Yes, yeah.
No,
So there is an adjustment. Oh, sorry, go, Nigel.
They were both the same size battery. I think that
really?
he's had his for a year or two. Alex, I'm
Hello.
talking about you.
Yes,
what
I know.
size is your battery in your the LFP battery?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. Let's have a look. I should go around it to the car and be in the manual somewhere, probably. Because I don't even know off the top of my head.
Just say adequate. Your battery size is adequate.
They have a
Adequate,
55. My battery is a 50 kilowatt hour battery. I think his might be 55.
Okay. I think the newer one's a 69.42.
Really? No.
That's why I went. And boom.
Oh,
That's
Russell,
You got me
bugger
good,
off.
Russell. Because actually, it's actually 60 and a half. At least in the Model Ys, it is.
Yes. Well, isn't it 60.420?
Yes, probably rounded up. Yes, that's right.
It's not 69, no.
No. So actually, so there, Russell. So in that example with Alex's and Nigel's, they're roughly equivalent size. So in a sense, the NCA is a racehorse where it goes off hard and fast, but then tapers off, and the same.
Like me.
Yes. And the LFP is a stayer. Obviously, when we compare to Model Ys, it'll be different because I'm not even sure what the capacity of the NCA is, but it's got to be.
It's 80,
70.
82.
Was it 80? 82.
80 or 82, I think. That's what they're coming to come with.
Okay. Fantastic.
So that's a good. Yeah, that's a good pickup there, Russell. As far as the specs for supercharging, that is definitely true.
It won't affect anything to do with AC charging because that's just limited by the current going in.
Yes, that's correct.
In terms of making a decision, it shouldn't affect anything really, whether it's 170 or 250 or 400, because realistically, looking at those charts, you're pretty much going to charge the same time anyway, right?
Well, put it this way: if you're road tripping on a supercharger network where there's superchargers every 150 k's, it just doesn't matter anymore because you only spend about 10-15 minutes at the supercharger before you've got enough charge to go to the next place anyway, and that's the ideal time to have a comfort break and coffee or whatever. In fact, you often find yourself being rushed. So the other thing too is, I mean, Colin lives closer to, well, he is in civilization. Colin can hop in his car right now and he can navigate to where I am in Brisbane. In fact, he can navigate to Gympie, actually probably north of Gympie, and his awesome car will just go, yep, your first stop's going to be Horsham or whatever, and he's going to be there for 15 minutes. Your next stop is whatever, Ballarat and so on, Bendigo, whatever. And he'll be able to navigate all the way to north of Gympie. And it wouldn't matter whether he's doing that in the shortest range Tesla that is on the market now, which is the standard range Model Y, or a Plaid S, which is probably the longest range car. It just doesn't matter when you've got superchargers. Obviously, where we are in Perth, it matters a lot. But by the end of next year, again, it's not really going to matter. So, one thing I like about the LFPs is you just set it to 100% and forget it, and you live the rest of your life never thinking about what the state of charge of your battery is or what you're charging it to. Whereas the NCAs, you're only supposed to charge regularly to 90%. And
probably
only
best for Colin Harold to wait until he gets the new doors put on his car before he does that drive. Probably a little bit safer. Have the door, close the door.
Possibly, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think, Russell, the charging rate, the performance and long range have got the NCA and will charge up to 250, and the standard range or single motor cars have got the LFP batteries and will only charge to 170. But they've got the small. Mine's got a 60 kilowatt hour battery in it, whereas the long range performance have got an 80 or 82.5 kilowatt hour battery. So they'll charge faster, but it'll still take the same length of time because they got 20 extra kilowatt hours
Yeah.
in the battery to fill up. So yeah, they can charge faster, but it's still
Yeah.
going to take about the same amount
It's
of
just,
time. In the
I
long
think
run.
it's interesting because when I bought mine like over a year ago now, that stat wasn't on the sheet. It didn't say what the charging was. It just listed the range, and that was it. So
they didn't
it's
have
actually the first time I've noticed it. I
superchargers
didn't know.
that could charge.
I don't know how long
Yeah,
it's
they
been
didn't
there
have
for, but
superchargers that could charge at that rate.
There you go. I just put the graph, the specs up for Nigel and I's little test that we did.
oh yeah,
So yeah, Nigel
yes.
basically, there you go. So Nigel's car at 20% was charging at 129 kilowatts, whereas mine was only charging at 116. And then mine slowly tapered off.
Yes, it'd be nice to see that plotted out because you can
Yeah.
see that up to 50% you were winning. No, sorry, 40%, up to 40% Nigel was winning, but then it rolled over.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that actually means that if you two had rocked up at a state of charge of 40%, which is not unusual, then you would have been winning the whole time, Alex.
That's right.
Now,
Now
obviously,
that was at the Eaton supercharger, which I think can only charge at that time to 130 kilowatts.
that's right. Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if it will do 150 now.
Actually, I'll just try and move. I think I've just got. I'll try and move
So-
this over.
Yeah,
And
it says 150,
share
but
it.
I've never got that from there.
Yeah, that's why I only got 129, and that was with all the preconditioning. Because I didn't think it would go over 130. We did this about a year ago, didn't we, Alex?
We did just over a year ago, in about March, I think. So just a couple of weeks after I got my car.
I got 140 from there.
it does vary. It just depends on conditions because they've
How
sort of
fast
been
you
pushed a
drive.
little bit past their nameplate. But yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, I think Russell, what Nigel alluded to a few moments ago about the reason of Tesla only now bringing out those statistics is it's only really relevant for version 3 superchargers, which can go the higher power. So I guess Tesla just probably introduced that metric at a similar time as Australia got a meaningful number of version 3 superchargers. Because when you're on 130 kilowatts, it's kind of irrelevant because, as we can see, both cars can do similar power levels.
Yeah, and even if there was other companies that had superchargers here, or fast DC chargers here, it's unlikely they'd be operational anyway, so it wouldn't matter.
Well, and the thing too is, don't forget that even though there are so-called 350 kilowatt ultra-fast DC chargers, they are current limited to 500 amps, which is only 200 kilowatts at 400 volts, which is what our packs normally are. In fact, the standard range Model Y has a battery voltage that swings between 360 volts when it's flat to 370 volts when it's full. So in fact, at an ultra-fast 350 kilowatt CCS charger, non-Tesla, it would charge at probably 180 kilowatts. And that's basically because Tesla just goes that bit further, and rather than using the 500 amps, they'll jam 625 amps happily down the connector to charge harder.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's another difference. And you're right, that you've actually got to find a CCS charger that's non-Tesla that's actually operational and reliably so.
Yeah.
Which just goes to show that that's why Tesla's winning, because there's no other charger system that you can look on your screen and see the live status and know that there's not just one outlet. There's between 3 and 6, and it will give you the live status of each one of those nozzles. And
I saw that they also announced that Alex was getting a supercharger in front of his house in Mandurah. Is that where it's being put?
In his lounge room.
No, it's more towards Pinjarra way. That's the word on the street. So apparently it's going near a service station up there. So, but the location is yet to be announced officially.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's it.
The Lancelin one, there was it was called a leak, but it was probably just an inadvertent population of the actual address details in Tesla's supercharger list on their website. And for instance, Lancelin had the absolute correct address, but the Mandurah one, excuse me, just showed Pinjarra Road, and it was kind of near the Puma or the Vibe. Is that right, Jared? I think it's the Vibe, which just replaced the Puma or something like that on Pinjarra Road.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
Yeah. So
Vibe was taken over from Puma.
so Alex, you're right. It's not actually known precisely on Pinjarra Road where it is. And obviously, frustratingly, the Albany supercharger, which we now do know about because it's in the council documents, and actually a great piece of news that we gleaned from Synergy at the Perth WA branch of the EVA meeting last night was that the city of Albany have actually commenced works on the car park where the supercharger and the Synergy charger is going. So they're really advancing with a vengeance. So hopefully, fingers crossed, there'll be some. Well, hopefully it might be installed, in the next few months. That being the Synergy's charger and well, hopefully the supercharger, which is a 6-stall station.
Yeah, so just about charging, and I saw that Pete had a few issues with some chargers earlier this week. Now, when people are relying on some of these chargers to get from point A to point B, for example, they need the charges happening to make sure they can get where they want to go. But on the other side of the coin, someone's invested money in this charger and they expect to get a return on it to pay for the services. So you'd assume that they would also have a vested interest in making sure it's online as well. How often are these things need to be offline before people are like, you know what, this is too hard, we're not going to put any more in because the amount of downtime we have is not financially viable anymore and our business case doesn't work?
Do you mean the RAC highway charges?
Yes.
Electric, right. Okay. So, look, one of the biggest problems is the RAC built that highway. It was actually one of the first highways to be built in the world. So it unfortunately suffered from being the first mover. It wasn't really an advantage. One thing they did, because obviously at that time there were very few Teslas, like very, very few. You could literally count them on a few hands in WA. But there were a lot of Nissan Leafs, which had, obviously extraordinarily short range. So you'll notice that all the RAC highway charges are very close together. So you've got Harvey, Mandurah, Bunbury, Donnybrook, Bridgetown,
Yarra Valley.
Dunsborough,
Busselton,
and
Margaret River.
Augusta, Margaret River. So they're very close together, and they were underutilized because if you're in a Tesla, you could almost go past, not quite all of them, but the vast majority of them. The thing that the RAC did is, I believe, that whoever it was that sort of started up this project left the RAC, and with that person, so too did a lot of the motivation to sort of keep it alive or keep the project going or expand the project. The other thing the RAC did, which I think in hindsight was a big mistake, was they actually gifted the charges to the councils, which then meant that it became their babies to look after. And I think as far as the councils are concerned, they were on a hiding to nothing because there was low turnover because there weren't that many cars in the first instance. And even the few cars that were around, they all had long range and never used any of the shorter distance charging stations. So they were underutilized. And then the problem, again, as we've seen in Margaret River, is it takes 15 seconds to cause $3,000 worth of hardware damage by simply grabbing the plug, swinging it like a cat and smashing it on the ground. And, Margaret River, which is one of the charges that's still offline, there's $3,000 of connector damage. And then, of course, there's probably another $1,000 or $2,000 of service call to go and replace them. And I guess the Shire of Margaret River, I don't know whether they're sick of it or they've had enough of it, or, you know, again, they've been left holding the baby, which is not earning them any money, and it's just a liability. And there is no sort of overarching business case. Frustratingly, the REC's motto is for the better, but, you know, really, unless they somehow took back the system and took it off the responsibility of the councils and took it up as their own responsibility with their own KPIs, I think that system's just going to continue to languish in like a bit of a quasi limbo land of well, like a purgatory of not really knowing what it's doing.
Yeah.
And people like yourself, Russell, and others are damning it with faint praise, or even lampooning it as this is this useless thing that's always broken.
Yeah, because I mean, if I'm planning a trip through that area, for instance, there's no way that I'm even considering stopping at one, because the reliability or the, you know,
Yep.
chances of actually working is probably so slim that why would you chance it? So it's almost
Yeah.
like it's a victim of, it's like, you know,
It-
it's a great
well-
service to have, but if it's not going to work 99.9% of the time, then what's the point of having it? And that's one of the things that we got picked up when this new EV charger rollout was announced. Even at that meet, they said they were targeting like some number that was like low even to start with, and you know that's going to be not achievable because it didn't seem like they'd even considered the logistics behind what they needed to do. I'm concerned that this new plan is pretty much going to be everyone just AC charging again, because DC chargers will be offline and won't get parts, and they'll don't have enough backup. Like, because Tesla put in, what was it, minimum 4 chargers at every stall or something,
No,
to alleviate
3.
some of those concerns. Well-
Yeah, although to be fair, like, okay, for instance, if we look at Eaton, which was Perth's or WA's first supercharger, it's actually got triple redundancy because there are each power unit powers 2 stalls, and there are 6 stalls. So you could lose 2 out of the 3 DC boxes, for lack of a better term, and still have 2 stalls running. Now, if you go to Williams and the main power rectifier, power supply breaks or fails, then all 3 stalls are gone. So, whereas say at Margaret River or Karrinyup, there are 2 power rectifiers for the 6 stalls. So, in a sense, Williams doesn't technically have cabinet
So I was
redundancy.
when I say not working, I was referring to like damage. So
Yes.
the likelihood of a DC box failing compared to someone going around, swinging around, smashing on the ground, there's probably a higher chance of damage through vandalism than damage
Yeah.
through the DC going bad.
Yep.
So it's
Yep.
more, hey, if someone goes around and stuffs one up, you at least got a couple there. But
Yep.
once an end breaks on one stall, that's it. Like, there's no redundancy in that point, and that's
Yeah.
the concern I'm having about these rollout with only having one DC station at every location.
Yes. I mean, one saving grace might be that the average interval is about 200 kilometres, or no greater on average than 200 Ks. So technically you could, if you were fully charged at the previous one and you get to the next one and it's out of action, you know, you could probably make it to the next one, or at least charge up a little bit slowly on the AC for like half an hour just to get a bit of extra, 30 Ks or something, and then get to the next place.
Yeah.
But the problem is,
that instills a mindset of, I need to charge everyone I can just in case the other one doesn't work. So even though I can make it further, I'm going to stop anyway,
Yep.
because if this one doesn't work, I'm not going to make it to the one after. So I've got to charge now. And you're always going to be between 50% and 100 rather than between
yes.
80 and 20.
And look, that's what I did, to be honest, once I got north of Gympie in Queensland, because that was the last supercharger. And then I basically decided to effectively charge at each place that was available. Except, well, that was another pain too. Thankfully, we've got, waypoints. So I basically went onto PlugShare, looked at all the fast DC charger locations up the Queensland coast, put them all in, then I could gauge the distance between each one of them. And I mean, if one was, 100 Ks away from me when I just fully charged, I wouldn't use it, but I'd use the one that was, say, 250 Ks away. But I then kept an eye on the one that was 340 Ks away, because then I knew if the 251 was full, was occupied or not working, I could then get to the one after it. And then I'd obviously have to charge at that one. But I'd generally just go to the one that was 250 Ks away and charge there. So I'd often leapfrog one extra charger. I mean, in Queensland, they're relatively close together. Some of them are only, some are only 50 Ks apart or 100 Ks apart.
How many stalls were each one of these ones you went to?
Just the one.
Oh, really?
Most of the Queensland, the so-called Queensland Super QES, Queensland Electric Superhighway, QESH. Most of them are just 50 kilowatt tritium chargers with a CCS on one side and a Chanamo on the other. And they have a Schneider dual outlet AC. So that was the vast majority of them. And in fact, that was all of them until I got to Townsville, and then used the what was the brand, Pete? I might have been
it's a 350 kilowatt. I think
Yeah.
it was a 350 kilowatt tritium. Yep.
Yep, at the Puma, I think it was, at Townsville.
Correct.
So Russell, so all of the most of the Queensland ones, because again they were built 4-ish years ago, in 2018, basically, because I used them on my first lap around Australia at the end of 18, and I think they were mostly commissioned at the early 2018. They were just all 50 kilowatt tritiums. So in fact, we're actually getting, in WA, we're getting a better system because it's younger. So we're going to get dual outlet CCS ChemPower Series C units, which are capable of outputting between 75 and 150 kilowatts. It's basically 150 for the whole system. And if you've got two cars, you'll get 75 each. The only frustration is because the cable is not water cooled, there'll be a limit to how much power you can get if you're just one car. You might get 120 kilowatts for a few minutes, maybe, if it's not too hot, or the air temperature, or if there's not too much sun on the cable, which there will be.
Just bring your own water bottle, you reckon, and gas it down before you start?
Well, it's funny you say that. My sort of evil self is thinking, well, if we had like a CO2 fire extinguisher or something, well, that's not very friendly to the environment, I guess. But anyway,
Bit of an irony.
actually, let's be positive. Let's say that all that CO2 in the fire extinguishers is extracted from breweries brewing beer, and that's a renewable resource. So anyway, if you cool down the lead and the head, then it would charge harder, because that's the same effect as water cooling it or installing it in Norway in winter. But anyway, so you'll get, let's say you'll probably get, and we're going to find this out in the next few months. As soon as they install a single ChemPower unit, there'll be flocks of us going there to pay homage to it and play with it. And we'll find out. I think we might get roughly 120 kilowatts for a little while, depending on your battery. And maybe it'll come down to sort of like 100 or 90 kilowatts. But that's still going pretty quickly. That you're still getting 600 Ks an hour. No, probably more than that, 700 Ks an hour.
Yeah.
So it's still pretty awesome.
You mentioned before about the waypoints you put in. Did
Yes.
you find out like how many you could put in before it would let you put any more in?
No.
Quite a few.
I think I put up to about, I think I had up to about 6, maybe.
Half a dozen, yeah.
Yeah, I think I had about 6. I didn't put any more because that's all I needed for the rest of the day, sort of thing. So I didn't put more to test how far you could go. I really don't know, Russell.
Yeah, okay. I've been playing a bit with the waypoints in my car the last couple of weekends. I've just been doing a bit of driving because I can. And I found even if you put a waypoint in for a certain location, say, I know, Cottesloe Beach or something, and you go over the waypoint and don't stop, it doesn't register you've got there yet. It still holds onto it And if I drive along the coast, I'm like, I've got to slow down, say Fremantle, I put Cottesloe Fremantle in, I'll go past the exact spot and keep driving or tell me to do a U-turn. You got to go in there and manually like click it off. I guess it's got the pros and cons. Like in one side, it's like, hey, well, you might have missed it trying to find a parking spot, don't get lost.
Yes.
But the other side's like, well, you know, I've been there, like, what do I need to stop for?
Yeah, I think if you get sufficiently close enough, I thought I saw a button that said continue trip or something. I thought I might have seen that.
Yes, I actually got caught out with that in Bunbury or Busselton, one of the two, on the weekend. So I did exactly what you're saying, Russell. Had the waypoint, and literally it was on Caves Road, and when literally past the waypoint that I put in, and it said, you know, continue trip or what you said, Harold, something along those lines. But I never noticed that. I kept on looking at the map, and I'm thinking, surely I've driven more than this. And I kept on looking at it going, this is not right. And then I noticed the button and I refreshed it. And of course, it caught up to where I was. But it basically, the whole screen, when it gave me that continue trip option, the whole screen basically froze as if though I stopped at that waypoint, even though I didn't.
And what about one thing that I find a little bit frustrating about the navigation is that for whatever reason, maybe someone can see use for it that I can't, but it retains the blue line behind where you've been. So even if you've driven past it, I don't understand why it just doesn't disappear that line, because it can get awful confusing if you're sort of navigating around a certain area and you're like, hang on, am I turning left or right? Like, which way am I actually going? Because the blue line's still there, but that's the path you've been on, not the path you're going forward.
Yep.
The blue color, like a light blue line or something.
The blue line doesn't stay there forever, though. It does. It sort of goes in sections. So you've got to go a certain distance, and then the last bit sort of drops off, and then you go a little bit further.
But what happened to me is I navigated to someone's house and then had to go out from their house. So I navigated there, dropped them off. Next one, I pulled out. I'm like, do I go left or right? Like, which way do I go? Like, there's two lines going this way. I'm like, well, which way am I meant to be freaking going here? Like, if it just said, hey, you've been that way already, this is the new path to go, it would have just stopped at that point and kept going, but it doesn't. It shows the previous.
Yeah,
you can easily fix that. You just reset your trip.
Yeah, basically. I know. Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah. Just a hassle, that's all.
The other thing that's difficult too is when you add waypoints, the order in which they appear depends on how you added them. If you go add, I think it's add trip.
Added trip and then add stop. So you can do add stops in two different methods. So you can go add stop, or you can go added trip and then add stop.
Yes, if you just go add stop, it adds it at the
in the middle
beginning of the trip.
Correct.
And if you do it at edit trip and add stop, it adds it at the end. And then sometimes if you forget which way you did it, you could, like I had waypoints that were mixed up. So of course that just mangled everything. And like you say, Russell, you just see this blue line that's, well, it's only one big blue line that sort of goes across everything, and you can't really tell the order. So you've got to kind of look at the order and rejig them.
On Waze that I use as well, it shows different colors after each waypoint, and the line changes colors after each waypoint, so you can see.
That'd be useful.
You can't do that with Tesla because they use different colors for the traffic now. Traffic congestion. So yellow and orange and red.
Yeah, I'm sure they can come up with some colors, even if it's like different shades of blue. I don't know. It would just be, I guess, one of the convenience things that would be nice to have, I suppose.
Good idea.
Well, and why not have the option? Well, apart from doing the traveling salesman problem, where you should just be able to enter in waypoints willy nilly, and it should just find you the shortest path or shortest time.
Yeah, like courier companies do. Yeah.
Yes. So that way, you just know that the car will inherently, well, as an option, pick the shortest path. Which, if that was me going up the Queensland coast, it would obviously be each town in turn. Or if you're in a city, it should be either the fastest path or the shortest path. Between waypoints.
Well, this Ask Us Anything has a habit of our discussions coming into reality in most circumstances. So it shouldn't be too long until these comments are noted down and
Well,
implemented.
Elon's listening, and Tesla is listening. So so let it be said, so let it be done, Russell. After all, it's only one software update away from being done, mate. It's just we don't know which one.
Yeah, there was a discussion previously around the app being updated to include suggestions or something along those lines of being able to enter like you know, hey, this would be great sort of thing, rather than going onto Reddit or wherever you want and stop, you know, having some. Yeah, I haven't seen that. Anyone else? No one's got their phone yet? No,
Not yet.
cool. All right.
We've got some cool
What you can
new stuff with the
can
app,
do.
with the update. Okay.
go, Paul.
Go, Paul.
No, I was just saying today with the app, with the updates, we got some new stuff on the app, which was pretty cool.
Like what?
For instance, I'm sitting in the car and it actually says what I'm actually listening to.
Oh yeah,
which is pretty cool. That was System of a Down. But yeah, what else
Don't do
was
the
there?
camera yet, Paul?
Huh? Yeah, the live camera.
You don't do that yet?
Yeah,
yeah.
that was pretty
Hey,
cool.
Hey, Paul, try something for us.
Yeah, mate.
So you know, with the cabin overheat protection,
Yeah,
how now it allows you to set it to
different temperatures.
30,
Yeah. 35 and 30.
30,
and 40.
35 and 40. Yeah. Now, what car is that? What car are you in now? Are you in your 3 or your Y?
I'm in my car, the 3, not Leonie's Y. But Leonie's Y had a
Doesn't
different...
do it.
No, she got something to do with battery warming or battery something optimization, and I didn't get that. So I was like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah, I had the same thing. So the 3, so the Y didn't have the
I'm just looking at it.
The cabin overheat protection choices.
Yeah.
But it got the battery. Better, more intelligent battery warming or something along those lines.
Yeah, something like that.
So but I don't know why the Model Y wouldn't get cabin overheat protection. You know, the choices.
It's not heat conditioning, is it, Pete? What is the Y? It's not.
No, it's to do with the optimization of the battery, the way it's being used or something. So, I could jump into Leonie's car and look, but I can't be bothered.
That makes sense.
So I've got.
Nigel's got the Y.
I've got both my 3 and Y on the same app.
Yeah.
And I have not got the 30, 35 and 40 on either car.
Oh. Maybe because it's yours a performance?
No, they're both rear wheel drive only.
Maybe it's a performance thing, Pete.
LFP, who knows?
You mean the battery thing? Well, according to not a Tesla app, the battery heating, battery heating performance has been improved when driving at highway speeds with a supercharger selected as a destination.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really say a lot. But what it might be, I know what it should be is, that button's a bit sticky. What it should be is that I think all of the cars have louvers where they can basically shut down the airflow going to the radiators.
Yeah.
And you can also, I'm pretty sure in all the cars you can actually bypass the radiators altogether where they switch them out so that you can conserve heat. So if they just recirculate the coolant to the car and not expose it to the radiators, then you can get more pent-up heat to build up in the battery rather than having sort of, always cooling mode and wasting that heat. So it's more efficient and also quicker. It's either more efficient, so you waste less energy, or if it consumes the same energy, it's quicker because you're preventing a loss of a lot of heat leaving the system.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Harold.
How cool are our cars? Oh, sorry, go.
Sorry, man, I'm at work, so I can't
go,
stay.
Darren.
Is there any chance I could be rude and jump in with a quick question, please?
No, go.
No, Damon, you can wait. You can wait your line, mate. Just wait. All right. No, of course you can. Go, Damon.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry
Hey,
to
Damo.
butt in. I finally got the charge stats back on my app after about 7 months, or maybe even 8 months. It disappeared about 7-8 months ago, and with this new update, I finally got it back. I was just wondering if anybody else is having problems setting the rate for the kilowatt an hour at home, like the 27 cents from Synergy, because I can't seem to get it. Like
Yeah.
I can.
It's more
It's a
like
pain in the balls, mate. It's a pain in the ass to do.
Yeah, Russ, like, because I put 27 cents in and I save it and everything, but it's not, it's just saying 0.
Yeah. You got to click off it in a certain way. It's a bit temperamental.
Really?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a shit. Because when I first did that, same thing happened, and you got to like, I can't remember so long ago. I think you got to like click it twice or something before you go out of it. Once you put your number in, you got to like confirm it twice before you leave. I think that's how I fixed it.
I'll try that, because the supercharger rate's coming up 69 cents, which I can't get over. It's bloody getting expensive. But anyway, apart from that,
by the way, Damo, if you want it to be accurate, put in 30.0605 cents. Because that includes GST. So the 27 cents, is pre-GST, because the bill separates your GST line item. So
Pete,
if you put in,
could you please message me that, because there's no way I'll remember it. I'm pretty busy here.
No worries, but 30. I'll message it to you, but just 30 cents. If you put in 30 cents, it's a lot more accurate than 27.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All righty then. Well, thanks. So, Russ, you reckon just bugger eyes around with that double clicking and stuff, or?
Yeah, if not, mate, like just send me like a messenger or something, and I'll send some screenshots or something to you.
Yeah, awesome. All right, thanks.
And Damo, you can also just look at the 1 hour mark on YouTube, and this will be this section here. So in about an hour into the video. But but Russell will text you too.
You've got it on your SMS already.
Thanks for that, everyone. As I said, sorry to butt in, and have a good
No worries.
night.
Go back to work, Damo. Smoko's over.
I've got to
slacker.
Cheers.
I've got a couple of questions, if you don't mind now.
Those rates, though, just on that quickly before you finish up, mine's set to the exact number like Pete just said, but the issue is everything's 100% solar anyway, so it's a bit deceptive because it doesn't distinguish between solar power and mains power. So yeah, I set my home to 0, really. Anyway, Go Grumpy.
Yeah, couple of things. I've just noticed in my Google Diary on Sunday, I've got a Model Y meet. Does anybody know anything about it? Because I've got no other information.
That's the 16th, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the Tesla.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Nigel.
Where's it at? Isn't it like
it's something that's
in Belmont? Isn't that where it is?
No, it's not. No, Nigel, that was something that we were going to do as a. We actually had a title to it as well.
Why?
And it had the letter. Why? I forget how it went. Don't worry about it, Nigel.
Okay, good.
We didn't.
Right.
Us committee slackers didn't get round to doing it because we've got other things to do.
That was me as well, then, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly. Yes. Touche.
Right.
That's right.
And the second question is, when I got my car, it said I've got a range of 436 kilometres. It now says I've only got 434 kilometres. Should I be worried?
Yes.
The short answer is no.
No, of course not.
The long answer is not really.
No.
There's a very technical answer, and I'm not going to give it now because we're going to keep. No, we're not going to go there. No. Just say no.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask if you're renting your car out on EV or whatever it's called?
Yep.
Should you be including Type 2 cables as part of the deal, or should you just give them a portable charger?
Well, depending on where they're going to be going, but I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Look, I
charge them extra for it.
I think Look, I think the actual EV platform has got some improvements that it should implement. And some of that should be, particularly in WA, for example, but probably most other places as well, there should be a minimum prerequisite before you can rent your car. So you've got to have insurance, it's got to be, I don't know, licensed, blah, blah, whatever. And I think it needs a certain minimum number of other things. So it should have a Type 2 charging cable. It should have a UMC, obviously. And depending on where the people will intend to take it, maybe it needs a 3-phase adapter as well, particularly in WA, parts of South Australia, the Northern Territory, and far western Queensland, really.
What about
and-
selfie stick? Selfie stick as well or not?
Selfie stick's optional, but yeah. So things like Type 2 cables are very handy. Although, full disclosure, I mean, for instance, I rented a Model Y in Brisbane, or a southern suburb of Brisbane, and all it's got is a UMC. And I actually bought a Type 2 cable with me, just in case, because where I'm renting this place, where the hotel is, it's just opposite the convention centre, where my wife is conventioning, and there's a charger in the car park, a Type 2.
How'd you go with the carry-on luggage for that one, mate? Is that in your hand luggage? And
No, it wasn't. No, I put it in cabin luggage. Yes, when it took one suitcase, and yeah, it probably weighed about a third of the suitcase. But no, it was fine, totally fine. I didn't want to bring it into cabin luggage because maybe they might think I could bludgeon someone with it or something. I don't know. But yeah, so I bought one with me.
Yeah.
But EV obviously doesn't have a requirement for anything like that. I don't. I presume I've never rented my car or a car on EV.
If you are doing that rental as well, just say I do rent a car for somebody. If I get a flat tire, am I able to contact Tesla support because it's not attached to my phone, is it? So normally in that situation, you'd call Tesla. Would we be giving them the phone number to say, here's what you call? But then when they get it, do they know who they're talking to?
Well, actually, for example, the car I've got, obviously it came with the two. In fact, the car, there's a Model Y, and it's only done 750 Ks, which I'll try and fix very quickly. But I was actually added. I got the invitation to be a driver, so that's now attached to my app. And of course, through my app, I can initiate a service call, and I can even initiate a roadside assist.
Can you buy FSD as well off their credit card or not?
I haven't tried that, Russell. That could be naughty. I just don't know the answer to that, and I'm not going to.
Can you buy another tequila bottle or something and send it our way? Or
yeah, but it'll probably be on my Apple ID. Let's have a look. I'm on the car now, and it says roadside, and the app is turning, and it says select car condition, flat tire, drivability concern, charging, and other. So yeah, I can initiate Tesla service thingy. Oh, and I can actually call for a service as well. So if I look into history, there is none. So this car hasn't been.
Would a person who's renting their car out the same as this situation always give mobile phone access, or they just give the key card like they give to, if I go to the repair shop for a new bumper or whatever, I give them the key card or a valet or whatever, right?
I think that's probably up to the policy of the owner, because as part of the conversation through the EV platform, I just said, can you please give me an invite or make me a designated driver? And I gave him my email address, and I said that is my Tesla account email address. Yeah. So I don't know whether he would customarily have done that or not.
Did you say, don't you know who I am, or is that how it sort of started?
No. No. Well, he lives in Queensland. He wouldn't know me from a bar of soap.
That's right.
Nor did he. But I did say I was familiar with Teslas, and I had a couple. So, but I mean that's the best way, because look, you really do need it. And the great thing is, there's no real loss, because as soon as the rental's over, he just flicks me off. Or in fact, I'll flick myself off, because that was one great software update that the app got, the phone app, was the ability for the person who was given the right to drive the car to repudiate them, or clear that right. Because in the past, I had actually swapped my ex with another person, and he parked his car at my place, and we sort of swapped access. But then I had to sort of pose that awkward question of, well, can you delete me so I can then delete you? Because, we finished with the swap. And now you don't have to do that, because you can just, if you've been designated a driver, you can just, in your app, you just go, I think it says just delete.
Or revoke or something.
Yeah, something like that. I forget exactly where it is, but
there's
when you go to
no
manage
different-
cars.
So is there different levels of accessibility or ownership? If you could select like a different category of like, temporary or permanent or full control, at least then you could add people with a different like access permission. That'd be pretty handy. Like,
Actually, for instance, I can answer that right now. So this is the other car, and all I've got for upgrades, for upgrades is accessories, which I could go to the Tesla shop with my credit card. It notably doesn't have FSD or anything. Whereas if I click onto my car that I own and go into upgrades, it's still just accessories. I thought upgrades you could. That's strange. I thought you could get FSD on upgrades.
someone else got. What about Grumpy over there? What's your app say, mate?
Software update.
Yeah, where's that?
Under upgrades.
Yeah, it's just
So
software
above it.
upgrades.
Maybe
You're right, but
FSD.
But I've got a Model Y. Oh no, it's in the other account. Apologies for that. Okay, so
Doing it live.
I'm doing it live and doing it very badly.
Oh,
Actually, unfortunately, I've got the wrong Tesla account. I'm logged into the wrong one. But yeah, so for instance, with this one I've rented, I can't buy FSD or enhanced autopilot. So yeah, so you're right, Russell. There is like a restricted amount of access. I can start a service call request. I don't know what happens if that's out of warranty, but of course for the Model Ys that won't be for another 4 years or 80,000 Ks.
Because when I added my wife to the account, I don't remember getting a prompt to say, limit access or whatever. And I haven't actually opened her app to see what she can see. So maybe she only sees the accessories bit, not the FSD bit, potentially, as I'm like
Correct.
the primary owner, potentially.
But she can see your service history. So if there are any service invoices,
okay,
you can still see them. So there's a slight privacy, whatever. So this person that gave me access to their car, I noticed that they had a suspension piece replaced under warranty.
Right.
Because I could look at the invoice.
When you go to on your app now for this new car, when you go to security and drivers, do you have the manage drivers option or not?
Yes. So if I just go to myself, and if I go, is it account?
No, it's right down the bottom.
Security
and drivers.
and then manage drivers.
Yeah, okay, hang on. So let me just go.
Manage. Don't see manage.
Security. Oh, here we go. Okay, so.
Yeah.
You mean for the one I'm renting?
Yeah,
there's actually two ways to get to it. So you can go on the security and drivers, or you don't have to go under any menu. You can just scroll all the way down the bottom where it gives you your odometer and your
actually.
PIN.
Yeah, and I've got remove my access. Sorry, there's a button that says remove my access at the very bottom. So I don't know if that's in focus, but at the very bottom it just says, it's probably blurry, but it says remove my access.
But
so if I press,
you can't delete him off, can you?
No, because it's his car.
Yeah, that's what I'm checking to see.
Oh no, sorry, no. But I can delete myself. And obviously I can't add. because I'm an invitee, I can't invite others to also jump on his car. He can only the owner of the account can initiate that, but he can delete me, and I can also delete myself. So in fact, I'll delete myself before he deletes me, because as soon as I drop the car off, I'll just delete myself, and that's it. Job done.
Yeah. Is that like when you break up with someone, you want to make sure you break up with them, not the other way around?
Yeah, that's right.
Like,
because
I broke up,
because it's not them, it's me, and that's right. Yeah, I want to get in first, Russell. I want to get the first text message in, so that he'll get the message that says, Harold has deleted himself, removed himself from access of your car.
Yeah.
And then he'll probably say, "Oh, look, can you just park it around the corner?" I'll go, "Well, no," but but yeah. So there you go. So and obviously a lot of these tools have been developed because of Hertz in mind, because this is what Hertz needs as a car rental joint. Because how can Tesla charge idle fees at a supercharger if all you've got? In fact, I had this. I rented a Model 3 in San Francisco, and all I had was the access card, nothing else. Actually, initially, and then I had to actually approach the guy on Turo who owned the car, and he actually gave me his full Tesla credentials, his email address and his password, because at the time, this was back in 2019, at the time there was no other way to do it to get visibility of if you're at a supercharger and what your state of charge is. Yeah. They had to basically give you their full credentials. Whereas at least now, you're just given a text invitation link, and you've got visibility, but it can be revoked. And I don't know the owner's password or anything, which is really good.
If you're renting your car out, you need to tell them, you need to download the app, you need to put your credit card in if you want to use Supercharger, otherwise you can't use Superchargers.
No, frustratingly, that doesn't work, because I found that out too about a month ago. So frustratingly, Superchargers gets linked to the credit card of the account holder, not of the credit card of the nominated driver Tesla account. And I think that's an anomaly. So if you're
they've got to send you a invoice basically for whatever you use that for.
Yeah. So what Tesla should do, and because we know Elon's listening, is if you're like, what I did do is I've got I used one of the key cards to learn my phone in as a phone key, which of course I'll delete when I hand the car back, because I didn't want to rely on using the app to unlock the car and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And in fact, I'm kicking myself because I've actually got a Model 3/Y fob, and I should have brought it with me, because I could have learnt that into the car and then done great things with the boot button, opening the charge port door and stuff. But because my phone is a key, it's a phone key, and Tesla knows that I'm just a guest driver, then if I then drive that car to a supercharger and plug it in, they should charge the supercharging on my Tesla account, not the owner's. And that would be heaps more convenient. So please do that, Tesla, because that would...
I think they keep it with the owner, just to give the option of, the supercharging being included in the rental price.
Well, flick that switch, Pete. Have that option of, do you want to pay for all, as the owner, pay for all supercharging, or do you want the driver to go to their account? And that would be perfect, because, Hertz probably has, their computer system probably is all built in.
3,000 cars now.
Yeah, well, they're probably used to. I mean, their system would port straight in as an API, and they would be able to, a bit like toll fees and stuff, like toll charges, it probably automatically flows through because they're computer systems. But if you're a Turo or EV or whatever, it would be very handy. Or even Hertz, it's just handy for the user to pay, because the user gets full visibility. Otherwise, you have to trust what the renter said, because you've got no real way of knowing. I mean, you can see it on your screen. Obviously, when you do a supercharge, it'll show you your last session. how much it was.
Oh, you see it in your credit card as well. Will come up on the bill. You'd see it like on your statement.
Yes, but your statement. I mean, sorry, yeah, the guy who owns the car, but the person renting it, you've just got
Oh,
to
yeah,
take
they
the
have paid it.
word.
Yeah.
You've got to take the word of the owner that said, well, according to me, you've spent $60 on supercharging.
Yeah, and if you've also got another car and you're charging on the same day, it might get confusing as who was who.
Exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of those fobs there, Harold, as well, a friend of mine mistakenly ordered one of those fob wrap things, the rubber that goes around them.
Yes.
And he doesn't have a fob. So if you want it, I can give it to you if you like.
Yeah, cool. Oh, awesome. At the moment, the fobs aren't available anymore.
Yeah, because of the screw, right?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Yeah, effectively.
No one's going to have, so yeah, you're the only person I know who's got one. So if you want that,
yeah, cool. Thanks, Russell. That's awesome.
drop it off next time I see you.
No worries. I owe you some dough too from before, so we'll do a swap see. So it's going to cost me money anyway. So that's all good. Hey, has anyone else got any questions or comments or anything? Or if anyone's new, please do say hello.
Well, I can go more if you want, if everyone's quiet.
Oh, I wanted to talk about
Yeah, I
the
think
news
Chris.
stuff.
Oh, well, actually, okay. Well, Russell, just hold on 2 seconds. Go, Paul. Let's talk some news.
You got to play the thing of how I talk about shares.
Oh, yes. Let me see if it still works.
The following
it's not.
segment is general in nature and shouldn't be taken as personal professional advice. Listeners should seek their own independent assessment from a qualified advisor and not rely on the general nature of information in this program.
All right, now we're into investment mode.
I know. I wigged out this week. I was like, yay, they're finally not junk status. And I was just going, and then the shares went down and I went, oh yes, people are stupid. This is great.
Yes, the market will stay irrational longer than you can stay liquid.
I know. And the amount of cars that were delivered in September in China, and I was just going, that's awesome. Like it's just going great guns. So yeah, I'm pretty excited at the moment. So.
China's run rate is approaching 1 million cars, which, like we said in the news, is what all of Tesla produced last year, and China is at a run rate of doing that today, all by itself.
Yeah.
So if that's not geometrical growth, what is? Although, if you listen to Robbie Maurer, he did have some points that it's still not quite known if the Chinese demand is tapering off a little bit. Not that that's terrible, because, he did say that there was a rumor that I think Model Y prices might have to go down so that Tesla could take advantage of some tax rebate or some discount or something from the government. And that may have caused people to delay orders. But, even if demand is slightly coming off in China, I mean, in Australia, it's going great guns.
Yeah, exactly. Send it here. It's actually better margins and stuff. So it'll be great all around.
Exactly. And Tesla has got no shortage of customers, in so many jurisdictions.
I took the operations manager at work for a spin today because his car went in for a service, which was hilarious to drive my Tesla in there. And he loved it. It was really cool. And I definitely have sold 3 Model Ys, definitely. Because
there you go.
They're doing the sums now.
Well, one piece of news I sort of left out because initially I was going to put it in was that Model Y topped Germany's car sales in September. And at first I thought, actually I could put it in because obviously Model Ys are built in Germany, but not all of them. So clearly a lot of the 7,000 cars that comprise the September deliveries in Germany were Shanghai built. So, and obviously they come in waves. Yeah. But, I think more and more analysts are accepting that Model Y is going to be the world's biggest selling car probably next year, either actually or on run rate. You know, and
I definitely can believe that. It's a very nice car.
It's awesome. I don't think I know anyone that has a Model Y that doesn't like it and thinks that they should have bought a Model 3 or something else.
Have you seen many on the Gold Coast? What's the percentage up there? Is it quite high?
I've seen, well, actually, right where we are, which is near the convention centre, which, well, it's whatever, it's Surfers Paradise. Look, I've probably seen about 20 Teslas, and maybe a quarter have been Ys. It's funny, we had a bit of a drought yesterday, and then today we saw 3 Ys, sort of almost one after the other. But I see more in Perth. I was driving down Manning Road the other day, and I had a Model 3 in front of me, a Model Y behind me, another one that's off the side of the road to the left, and another one coming up the opposite direction, you know, all in the same stretch of road. It was just ridiculous, really. I was kind of girt by them.
Well,
do you know what's quite unique?
That out of everywhere.
Yes. Sorry, Pete. Yeah, go, Pete. I mean, sorry, P1 and go, P2.
Do you know what's quite unique, something that will probably never happen again, is during our run around the country, and I know this will be the case for you because I know you tweeted that photo of seeing the Model Ys on the back of the truck, and it was the case for me as well, where we both saw more Model Ys being delivered than we actually saw on the road.
Yes. Well, I only saw one, Pete, on the road, and that was yours. And I dare say that was...
two, yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, well, that's not fair. So I saw yours only, but I did see a truck full of them.
When I say I saw 2, I didn't mean mine and yours. I meant
yes,
yours and another one. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's not fair. Where did you see the other one?
Just coming up to Northam as I was almost in WA.
Oh, well, that's at the very end of the trip, mate. That doesn't count. So
well,
yeah, so you had
part of the trip.
So you had to drive 13,500 kilometres.
13,000 K, yeah.
Yeah, to see one extra Y apart from mine.
Well, that's why I took the extra 3 days just to get that Y in. You see.
That's it.
It was intentional all along.
That's right, because your trip, because it was 3 days later, there were 3 days worth of Model Y deliveries in Greater Perth.
Which makes all the difference. Yeah.
Dearie me. Well, just imagine what's going to happen at the end of this quarter when there's going to be another, who knows, 4, 5, whatever 100, maybe more Model Ys on the road, you know.
Well, the WSD here is incredible at the moment. Really is.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Now, Paul, before we go waxing more on Tesla stuff, one good thing with this software update, the 2022 dot whatever it is, 38.2.
36.2.
36.2, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Is
I sent you a text.
We're apparently getting dynamic brake lights.
Yes. Yeah, that's really cool.
And then, of course, as part of that, we'll also get hazards if you come to a dead stop, which is something strange for us Australians. But in Europe, on autobahns, it happens all the time. Whenever there's a big build-up of cars. Actually, I don't know, Nigel, is that something that's done in the UK as well? Do you do that in the motorways as well? Where you customarily, if all of the traffic sort of fairly suddenly comes to a stop, people then put their hazards on on the freeway.
The British get out and start abusing each other, mate.
They get their black puddings out and bash each other.
I still do that here.
Thump.
Yep.
Richard Chapman was trying to say something.
Oh, sorry, Richard. Go, Richard.
No, I still do that here. Yeah, if anything's come to a halt, I flick the hazards on, just out of habit. Yeah, all the time.
My last car did it automatically. You just, when you're going a certain speed, if you decelerate too fast, it just throws the hazard lights on automatically. They start popping up. I guess it's just so people behind you can get a better warning that you're going to be stopping, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah,
But you
because
don't
your
need to
eyes.
stop, you just got to slow down fast enough. It just is a bit of a change to trigger it.
The thing is, our brains are really useless at spotting differences. So if you blink and someone then puts their brake lights on while you're blinked, your brain just doesn't register that the lights are on necessarily at all. So, but if they're blinking or flashing or something's flashing, then it's more noticeable. So yeah, it's definitely a safety feature. But it's something that culturally we're just not used to doing. But I guess, most people's cars don't do it, and when our cars start doing it, well, I guess I'll get used to it or not. But yeah, that's another
It's
cool
like
feature.
when Volvo cars first came out, they had the little side lights on, and everybody was flashing them, going, "Your lights are on."
They flashed my father. He had a 244D or whatever.
244DL.
DL, yeah. And it was actually the version that it didn't have the rear seats in it because it was the Courier or whatever commercial version, which had a cheaper import tariff. And then someone had worked out that you could just cut those wooden boards at the back and put in a standard Holden rear seat, which fitted perfectly. So it was like a bit of a tax dodge or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, oh man, this is up in Karratha, full of rednecks in the 1970s. And he kept getting flashed because people go, "Hey mate, you got your headlights on." And yeah, anyway, now all the cars have them. And I think they have to actually. I think it's an ADR rule now. You got to have daytime highlights or driving. Well, yeah, daytime running lights.
Something I've actually noticed in the UK, Harold, between here and the UK, that can catch you out is that in the UK, you put your indicator onto the left for someone to overtake, and you say, and when you flick right, you say, "No, don't overtake because there's something there."
And that's the way it should be. And that's the way it should be. But it's funny, driving around Australia, in some states, people were doing that more than the others. But coming back to WA, when people want you to overtake, they turn the right one on, which makes no sense to me because because that could get confused with you actually turning right, and then you sort of whack into them. So but
I thought that was a
pommy blood in you, Pete.
Sorry?
Have you got pommy blood in you?
It's a Europe thing. Come on.
Isn't that? I thought it was a sign that if you do that, the person in front's meant to speed up so you can't get past them. Isn't that how it works?
That's only on dual lane where there's an overtaking lane.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
How many times do you? Oh God.
Well, I was on the left-hand lane now because they all move over to the right, so I go up the left and you can beat them at their own game.
Which in Australia is legal. It's actually illegal to undertake, whereas in Europe it's completely illegal to undertake.
Yes.
And in fact, I guess Peter Ship, I don't know if you get this very often, but my wife and I get super frustrated on the so-called smart freeway, where the smartest lane, the quickest lane to get into, is the far left lane.
Exactly.
That is the on-ramp of Canning Highway, because everyone somehow thinks they need to get into the middle lanes and then slow down. And we're doing like often 100 k's an hour in the far left lane, where every other lane is going slower, and it's just insanity. It's madness.
Well, I went down the freeway this morning, and the left lane was by far the quickest. Hop to the left, and you got a free run.
Absolutely, go Richard.
Is it legal to undertake in Australia?
Yes. But you've got to be a main line between you.
But I'm pretty sure in the eastern states, because I remember seeing a lot of keep left unless overtaking signs, which we used to have in WA as well, but we haven't had here for a few years now.
Well, Pete, it used to be law. It was for a short time, for a few years, it was actually illegal in certain speed limits to occupy the right-hand lane unless you were overtaking. But then the powers that be just gave up on it and said it's just too hard, or no one listens.
I think it's still a rule that if the speed limit is above 80, you need to move left if you have the opportunity. That's still a rule. It's just not.
But it's not a fine. There's no fine. It's not an offence. It's only a
but you can
recommend.
still be pulled over to be say, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. But still, they can still do it.
We'd have to look at the legislation.
Is this just WA talking about, or all of Australia?
No, WA. Because I believe in the eastern
Yeah.
states, you are obliged to stay out of the overtaking lane or the far right lane, or unless of course the traffic's completely built up. If everything's going below the speed limit, then that's fine if it's all congested. But yeah, Richard Chapman, you're saying undertaking, so that like Peter Ship was saying, you can't undertake. The only time you can undertake on an unmarked road is if the person is turning right and you can overtake them on the left on an unmarked road. But if it's a divided road or it's got lane markings, you are, like a dual carriageway, you are permitted to effectively go faster in the left lane than in the right-hand lane. Whereas in Europe, that's completely illegal. And you can see why, because when people will often go from their overtaking lane straight into the slower lane, and if someone's going faster, of course they can then hit from behind.
Can you see that?
Yes.
There you go. Look at that. Found the kick left on multi-road, $50 fine, 2 demerit points.
Is this WA?
Yep.
Oh.
That's really interesting because
I thought it only applied in WA when the speed limit was below 80 and in some cases 90.
Yeah, 90 it says, yeah. Multi-lane roads, 90 kilometers and above. So it's pretty much the freeway and that's it.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Because I've listened to the one of the superintendents on the ABC often, and that comes up every now and then, and they basically just drop the ball and go, "Oh, we just don't bother with keep left anymore."
Yeah,
it's too
exactly.
hard.
Like they're not going to enforce it, so what difference does it make?
Yeah.
I'm
Absolutely.
sure they'll use it as a reason to pull over a suspected someone. Oh
yes.
There's all these laws in there that never get used that they use in special cases.
Well, actually, something that's going, Russell.
So I was just wondering, have you mentioned anything about the Starlink rentals?
No.
Did you want to talk about that or not really?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, cool. So a while back, Harold managed to purchase, I don't know, probably the world's largest supply of Starlink devices by any one person. I think he's got more than Ukraine at the moment, someone told me the other day. But anyway, one of those is actually the club owns, from what I understand. I'm sort of like, joining the dots here, but I believe the club has rented it out for the first time this week to someone to use it. And I guess everyone in YouTube land, like, it's definitely available. Pricing's based on how nice you are when you ask for it at the moment, with a minimum charge of whatever it's going to be. But all those things are still being worked out on a case-by-case basis. But yeah, there's actually a friend of mine who's using it at a location with zero internet connectivity. And I got confirmation from him early this morning that he's getting over 100 megabit down where he is. So
awesome.
It's very good for him. And there's also all the people that are down there as well also get to use it. So that's fantastic. So just a story on sort of what happened. I dropped it off to him on Monday night, and I hadn't seen him in a while, and he actually hadn't. I saw him. I've seen him. Since I had my car. Yes, it is the RV version, Chris. Yes. Since I've had my car, he hasn't been in it yet, so took the opportunity for him to have a bit of a test drive, and we met down at Baldivis Bunnings, down where the charger is down there. Down near, I don't know whose neck of the woods is that. I guess it's close to
mine.
Grumpy.
Yeah, close to Grumpy.
Yes.
And that's my charger at Stockland Shopping Centre, not yours.
I didn't use it, so I knew that was already territory. Someone had pissed on it, marking their territory, so I didn't want to go near it. But he to say he was excited was probably an understatement. When I gave him permission to use the 500 horsepower and offer, within the speed limit, obviously, he was giggling like a child and stopped, and we turned around, and he then proceeded to giggle again when he went back the other way. And then he pulled over, then he jumped in his car, and we, showed him out the car, yep, I'm going to order one when I get home situation. So that's great. So he did that as well. But he decided when he was driving home he actually pulled over halfway and texted me saying, "Oh my God, that was incredible. I'm still laughing now. Can we do it again this weekend?" So it's definitely those sort of experiences, getting bums in seats it's just fantastic, because prior to that, he'd always thought about it, but once he sat in and did it, that's it. There was no real discussion after that. It was just, when can I get one, rather than how much it was or any sort of details. Just, that's all I need, just that. Yeah.
So in other words, he thought he was getting cheap, fast internet in a remote area, and now he's ended up buying an expensive car.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
See, it's all about the entanglement. So by the way, Starlink has continued to expand. So basically, you can get it in an unbroken line from Cairns all the way to Carnarvon.
Is that like a defense base there or something? Is that why that's blank?
That's the Murchison square kilometre array exclusion zone. You'll find that's, I don't know if there's actually a name, but that is actually the Murchison square kilometre array. So obviously, SpaceX have agreed to not shine their beams deliberately in that area.
Is that some sort of like land-based telescope or something? Is it, or?
Yeah, it's a radio telescope. It's called a square kilometre array, not because the array is 1 kilometre by 1 kilometre, but the total receiving area of all the antennas equates to approximately 1 square kilometre. But they're actually intended to be very long base interferometry. So there's a big array in the Murchison, there's a smaller array in South Africa, and I think there might be another array somewhere else. And anyway, it's got to do with radio astronomy, but to a resolution that's unheard of. And the data that they've had to build dedicated fiber optic links, and they create more data in 24 hours than all of the internet ever created, or something like that. Some ridiculously large metrics of data. But anyway, so that's why there is this noticeable hole in the Murchison.
I think we brought it up on a previous episode, maybe a few months ago, but that area of solar panels would probably feed all of Australia's requirement for solar as well.
Well, no, Russell. I think that would come close to the world, to be perfectly honest. I don't want to exaggerate, because
but a kilometre by kilometre, not that whole space.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's just stupendous. It's is it 10 kilometres by 10 kilometres would do Australia, and 100 and 100 by 100 would do the world, almost. Sort of something ridiculously small like that.
I've got some news for you, Harold.
Oh yes, Alex.
Correct.
I bought Starlink and it arrived yesterday, and it's temporarily set up. I was going to talk to Pete of what's the best way to install it.
Actually, I can show you something, Alex. Just chat amongst yourselves, and I will.
Alex, have you got a poll in your living room or something? Like a poll?
I haven't got a
The first
poll.
question is it going to be permanent, or are you planning on taking it, on holidays with you?
I think it's going to be a permanent thing.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, usually, I mean, if you already have an old Foxtel dish or anything like that, but
yeah, I've got one on the roof.
Yeah. Okay. And if is it an old one that you're not using?
Old one I'm not using. Yeah.
Okay. And if you were to put it there, would you be able to orientate it towards south and have no obstructions in the sky, like trees and
trees are an issue.
Okay. Well, then, I mean, there's an app that you get with it, which lets you move it around the roof to find, to move just your phone around the roof
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously orientated towards the sky, and it will tell you whether whether you have enough free sky for that spot. But yeah, basically, what's the angle that it's at, Harold?
It's about 20 degrees off the vertical. Oh, sorry, off the
horizontal.
Off the horizontal. This is what I've done at a place I'm renting, and that's just a couple of sandbags from clean sandbags from Bunnings, and so I bought a bag of sandbags, which is the white and red thing, but inside I actually these are just they're for sand pits for kids. It's washed river sand or whatever, and I just had the actual. You can see the part of the feet of the pad of it, and this is the round dish, and it's had a weird. This roof is at 22.5 degrees pitch, and I just like slapped it on the roof and just had the cable dragging across, and it works perfectly fine. At my house where I live, I've got a fairly thin pole that was for the TV antenna, and I just lowered the TV antenna down the pole rather than at the top of the pole. And at the top, I just got two U brackets, like where you get at Bunnings for antennas and whatever. So it's just basically two round pipes. One's 1.5 inches, which is the Starlink one, and the other one's 3/4 of an inch or whatever it is for the TV pole, and just slapped them together. So my Starlink at home is on the very top of the pole, and that works quite well. In the wind it jiggles around a little bit, but it works fine. Or Alex, if you want to be really rough, quasi temporary, or that's heavy enough. These sandbags weigh, I think 20 kilos each or 15 kilos each, and this thing survived. I don't know, 6 months with storms and cold fronts and all that stuff.
And obviously run the cables inside the house, I suppose, as well.
Actually, what I did. Cheers. See you, Paul.
See you, Paul.
See you, Nigel. No, actually, this house has got like a semi-detached shed that's got a power supply in it. So because it's Wi-Fi, I just have it. It's outside the house, basically. But you could always just have it. I mean, Alex, all you need to do is just lift the tile, and you could slip the cable under the tile, sort of let it go under, and then once you're in the roof space, you can go wherever you want. And if you own the house, where you can do literally whatever you want, none of this is 240 volts. It's all just power over Ethernet to the modem, so it's all safe, intrinsically safe. I mean, you're an auto electrician anyway, so it's super easy. The one thing that's easier now with the new. So Pete, I just make this little point. One thing that's a lot easier now with the new square dish or rectangular dishes is that you can actually remove the cable at each end. So whereas on the dish, this round one here, this cable is actually permanently fixed to the shaft of the dish. So you can't. I couldn't, for instance, get this cable and route it up through the roof and then to the dish. I'd have to basically get the whole 30 meters or whatever it is of cable and run it through the roof, in one direction. So you've now got more options. Sorry, Pete, you were going to say?
I was just going to say you could get a angle grinder and just notch out a little notch in your tile for where you'd feed the cable through, just so you don't have the tile sitting up. And, if you have, high wind while it's raining, so that rain doesn't get in underneath that tile. So, you could just notch it out with an angle grinder. Or just drill through a hole and put some silicon around it, or put a, what do you call them? A
grommet?
One of those lead sleeves.
Yeah, flashing. You get like a silicone flashing thing that is for like plumbing or pipes or anything. You get that at Bunnings.
And did you say it was 20 degrees from the vertical, right? About that?
Yes, no, from the horizontal. So
Oh,
the dish
yeah.
the dish starts out horizontal, so it faces
Yeah.
flat straight up to the sky,
Yeah.
and then it will tilt. Or maybe it's 30 degrees, to be honest.
So
It's
if we just
20
say
or 30
20,
degrees.
So say if it's 20 from the horizontal, that would
Yes,
mean it's about 69 from the vertical, wouldn't it?
possibly 0.420 degrees. Yes, exactly. Um,
You reckon that's like a coincidence, or
it would be if it was 30. If it was 30, if it was 30.58 degrees, then it would be perfectly 69.420. Yes, that's right.
maybe get
But
your
again,
phone
it
out and
doesn't.
measure the angle?
But I mean, actually, you can see on this one, it's actually at a weird angle because the roof is at an angle. In that direction towards this house in front is south. So it's kind of got itself into a weird-ish angle, but it's roughly pointing in the correct direction because it
No,
kind of just
it'd
works its
be
way out.
20.58 would be 69.42 because it's 90 take 69.42, which is
Oh,
20.
sorry, yeah, something like that. Yeah,
We're pretty close
yeah.
anyway.
Hey, what's pretty cool with the rectangular one is because it's not circular, it's actually got a dual axis. It's a dual axis
attachment mount.
Yeah. So what it does is when you put it on the ground. Sorry, I can't. I'll get rid of my background. Backgrounds, none. Okay. So can you see my phone? So what it will do is if you put it on the ground, so it points to the sky, and it will turn around like that, and then it will change its pitch. But yeah, it will do its orientation first, and then it will do the pitch. But the other one, because it's round, just it's a single axle one. So yeah.
Actually, is that right? I thought it might also still spin.
No, it must do. Yeah, I'm just thinking.
I think it still spins, but it's
Because
actually the mechanism is.
in order to face south, it still has to, even though it's round, it
Yeah.
still has to. Yeah.
Yeah, it does have a preferred thingy, but the rectangular one's really cool. And the thing too is, obviously, when we had, excuse me, when I had it strapped to the roof of my car, it was fixed horizontally, and I still got over 100 megabits per second with it kind of facing in a less favourable direction. So these things are just awesome. They really are. But yeah, good purchase there, Alex. The good thing is when the rioting mobs rip up all the fibre optic cable in the street, you'll still have direct satellite access, mate. So it's all good.
Yeah, that's it. And I've already tested it out on some gaming the Savis, so very impressed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, what do you call it? The latency is about 70 milliseconds, but so what? You barely notice it.
Yep.
Are you going to
Yeah, absolutely.
advertise on Facebook Marketplace for rental for Starlink, Harold, to generate some interest or increase the membership numbers?
We'll probably just put a post on Facebook to offer it to members. We've really got to work out the dollars and all that sort of stuff because there's a difference between a business.
There's a couple of them too.
Oh, is there? Are they both the same one or not?
They're the same one. Yeah.
One comes with the router attachment though, as I understand.
Yeah, I had to order a $60 Ethernet adapter, but that's only essential for someone that wants to put it through a router. Whereas if you're just using it, like on a road trip, then you just use Wi-Fi because everyone's device is cordless. But I mean, obviously, Russell, for your mate, he wants to run it through a router and whatever. So yeah, you do need the Ethernet then. But that actually, in fairness to SpaceX, that only took, I think it only took about a week to arrive, and that was from, well, somewhere in the States.
Mars, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, well, not quite, but yes.
Do they drop
But-
it off when the second stage booster returned to Earth? Parachute on the way.
Yes,
over?
well, actually, I thought there was some boosters, some of SpaceX's stuff, I think, landed in Australia, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And it wasn't kind of supposed to.
Was it
But
that perfume? Was that burnt hair perfume you ordered?
Yeah, it was the burnt hair. Yeah, that's right. It was that was another piece of news that didn't make it to the news. It didn't make it past the cutting room floor because
I think they used all our hair, didn't they? I think that's where it all
well,
went.
exactly right. I've already burnt my hair off, so I don't need Elon Musk, who himself used to be follically challenged and probably spent $1 million being less so. Not that anyone can notice. Yeah, we didn't need it rubbed in. But anyway, I spend many hours lovingly washing my hair and drying it. That's why I often don't get things done in time. But yeah,
was that in singular or plural? The hair was that?
Oh, now you're really cutting. Oh, if you've only got one or two left, well, it does make a big difference, doesn't it? If you lose one, it's 50%. Oh dear. But yes. Anyway. But yeah, so Starlink's a good story. Hopefully that'll work pretty well on the weekend. And yeah, it was a good thing that
one thing that we were trying to figure out was if he ran a router system through for his internal stuff,
yep,
and then broadcast a Wi-Fi signal on a different network,
yep,
would that all run through the router, or would a portion of that run straight through the Starlink? And you know what I mean? Like, would it all go through the router?
No, so if you're doing, say you got network computers and they're talking to each other, the router's intelligent enough that's all on the local network. It's only when you do a DNS lookup or you're looking for a site that's not on the local network that it then pushes out to the Starlink. The one limit.
No, not what I meant. Sorry, I meant if he wants to now offer Wi-Fi to the competitors of the event, would he have two separate sort of like would his router be configured so it'd have an internal network for his devices and a like public network to give everyone else Wi-Fi, or would the Wi-Fi come straight from the Starlink device?
No. So okay, well, there's a couple of things. He could. The Starlink has Wi-Fi anyway, although I think you can turn it off, but if he doesn't tell anyone the password, then it's effectively private. But he could certainly give, I see what you mean. Is it in bridge mode?
Yeah. Because he doesn't want to have bandwidth limitation by everyone going and checking their Facebook while he's trying to
okay. Well, in which case, the best thing he should do is he should use his router to rebroadcast a secondary Wi-Fi access point and throttle it.
Yeah, that's what we've done.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So that's right, because if he gives, there's no way of throttling the Starlink's Wi-Fi. There's no setting in it to do that. So yeah, he should, if he wants control, he should have his router set up a secondary guest access point and then just set a
50 megabits or something, and then he keeps 50 for himself.
Effectively, yes.
Yeah.
Or whatever policy he just has he just has full priority on his stuff, and everything else is secondary. And I think then it just works it out by itself. The router that is. So if he's not doing much, then people can go quicker. So it's a flexible limit. So he always gets best effort.
QoS.
QoS. Yeah. Yes. Quality of service. Yeah. So he always gets best effort, and everyone else gets second best.
Yeah, I don't think his router's got that functionality, unfortunately. It's a bit shooter, but yeah, I think it just gives you like a maximum like capacity of a network, not a.
Okay. Yeah. Well, in which case, he can just give himself. Yeah. I mean, yeah. If he lets everyone else have 25, it'll be fine. So yeah, I think it'll be fine, and it might just be a learning experience. Yeah, and there'll be some IT guy that'll go, no, you can do it this way, that way. But yeah, you just deal with what you got.
Mm.
But yeah, it certainly should be good. And the good thing is, being down south, there's so many satellites that the service is rock solid. I mean, notwithstanding, obviously, we heard the bad news. Oh, was it 1 or 2 weeks ago that apparently the Wagen ground station is going to get turned off and moved because of noise complaints from a neighbour, which is pretty weird, but it's apparently happened. So there'll actually be one less ground station than there used to be. But anyway. But yeah, the service is awesome. That was a bit of news too. Starlink has come to Japan or parts of Japan. So that was
They
in that.
announced it India as well, didn't they, today? That they were talking to India about.
Yes, India's not online yet, but parts of Japan are or
Okay.
is online, and yeah, India is coming as pending regulatory approval. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And obviously, you can see Mongolia is unknown, but it's coming, and Kazakhstan. But China, that I was going to put it in the news, but you know, a lot of it starts getting a bit political, and it's not really the purpose of this show. But Elon Musk, in an interview with the Financial Times, did sort of say that China has very much stated that Starlink is not welcome in the People's Republic.
Well, they asked him not to offer it in China, I think he said. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably code for you will not be offering it in China. Otherwise, they would probably threaten to attempt to jam it and other things. Obviously, maybe they might be comfortable with it as long as he promised to route everything through the Great Firewall of China. But of course, you know, he wouldn't abide by that, and therefore the Chinese wouldn't allow it. He also did say in that same interview, which again, it sort of is news, but it's kind of obvious. Although I thought he was being a bit optimistic. He did say that if there was a conflict between Taiwan, well, it's almost like saying when there is a conflict between China and Taiwan, that clearly the Gigafactory in Shanghai would not be exporting cars, and that it would be limited to just producing cars for the Chinese domestic market. Although
Well,
I thought that
it's already the case now, isn't it? Isn't Taiwan getting its cars from Berlin?
no, sorry. If there was that's right. No, if there was a conflict between, well, let's just say, if and when China annexes Taiwan between next week and the next 100 years, because it's not a matter of if, it's just when, because that's China's stated policy, and they always play the long game. Over centuries, they've always played the long game and always followed through with what they've promised to do. If and when there's a conflict, then obviously all of the world, most of the world would have sanctions against China for doing so. And therefore, one of those sanctions would be, well, you can't export cars or probably many things, if not everything, which apart from causing a global worldwide depression as opposed to a recession, it would affect Tesla badly. And Elon Musk has just said that, you know, he thinks that, well, the Gigafactory would be limited to producing cars in China. Well, my opinion is it'd probably struggle doing that because there would be a meaningful amount of parts, including semiconductors, that the Gigafactory wouldn't have access to. So therefore, all production would probably stop. But anyway, that was a bit of news from the Financial Times in an interview, a long interview that Elon Musk had with them. And I can't remember some of the other points that he made, but those are the main things. Oh, I think he also recommended, which China welcomed and Taiwan didn't, that the way to resolve it would be to allow Taiwan to be an even more special administrative region than Hong Kong currently is, and that maybe that was the best way to avoid conflict, was for Taiwan to capitulate and for China to hopefully do the right thing, whatever that is.
You're sort of edging towards a demonetization here, Harold. Are you sure?
Yeah, so that's right. Yeah, exactly. So, and we shouldn't talk about war because I think YouTube has this weird policy. There's a guy, Blanco Illyrio, I think that's his channel. He's a 747 or no, he's a airline pilot, and he also flies, Cessnas or whatever. And he would do some depth, whenever there's a plane crash or something, he'd try and analyze it, early on to give his impressions of what it's about. And apparently he'd get demonetized because he was discussing themes that are upsetting to people. And it's like, well, a plane crash is kind of upsetting. That's just what plane crashes are, The news is upsetting, and yet, the ABC and every other channel has got live YouTube news channels. But anyway.
I was watching, what's his name? Samson, Mirror Mirror on Channel 10 last night, or the night before. And in that, they were saying that the Facebook algorithm, and the Google one's probably no different, and now there's the YouTube one, because it's essentially AI, it's so complex that it's impossible for the human brain to grasp. So not only can't a human explain it, because in order to explain it, you need to understand it first. It can't even grasp it. It's just too complex. And so basically, to some extent, machines are already, telling us what to do. And I mean, it's pretty important, and no one's, and if you can't understand it, how are you going to know where it's going next, how it's going to evolve, because it's just doing its own thing. And
I don't believe it. I say don't believe everything you hear. I think they're putting a lot of hype out there that really isn't exist yet. But they tell us it does.
Well, the thing with the AI stuff, like the neural networks, is by definition you sort of pre-tune them a little bit to help them on their way, but then you just give them a whole lot of training data, and it's sort of like a black box. It's literally like a black box, which is mysterious, and this magic happens from iteratively feeding back correct answers or wrong answers, or scoring it, and then all of these little weights, which are the little adjustments, sort of get done semi-automatically, and whatever the end result is, it just works, but you don't really know how it's working effectively. And in the early days, they used to do things like they would feed example photos of cars and something else. I forget what it was. And this AI system, this was 20 years ago, was really good at discerning a car from a horse or whatever it was, until they worked out that when they took photos of cars, it was like a bright blue sunny day. And when they took photos of whatever it was, horses or the other thing, it was dull and overcast. And it wasn't actually discerning the difference between a car and a horse. It was discerning the difference between an overcast sky and a bright sky. But of course, they didn't know, and for a while it gave the correct answers until they gave it different data. But you're right, Pete. It's sort of all those neural networks. It's a little bit like human beings. Our brain does stuff semi-automatically, and no one really knows how. And again, like you sort of imply, it's quite plausible that these things can start going off in their own little accord, which is why Elon Musk has regularly said, and this is really strange for any entrepreneur, he's actually said he recommends that the United Nations or national governments and the UN actually form proper regulatory bodies to oversee all AI development and to make sure that it's safe, or at least as safe as it can be. I mean, what's that saying where, if you have AI if you want AI to maximize profit in the share market, well, what the AI may work out doing is, if we can set off a few nuclear missiles, that's going to cause a huge buying opportunity, and you can make a killing, literally and metaphorically. But that's not necessarily the optimum result for the share market. Well, it might be the result for the share market, but not for the humans that own the shares in it.
The problem is AI and any sort of computer is really good at any rule-based problem. You know, if you, you know, it's very good at calculating the odds of, you know, heads or tails. And even if you introduce 2 or 3 coins, it's very good at that. But what if, you know, you have, you know, 1 coin lands on the, you know, doesn't land on heads or tails.
On the
And
edge.
what if,
Yep.
yeah, on the edge. And what if 1 coin has the head, you know, rubbed off? What if, you know, you lose one? Or what if you randomly, you know, have 2, you know, at one the coin toss and 3 at the next one? So as soon as the rules start changing, or as soon as you go outside the rules, it can't handle it. So,
well, what if, as is the case, you're the Reserve Bank of Australia, and you've minted a whole batch of 2023 dollar coins with Queen Elizabeth II's head on it, and they're dated 2023.
Yep.
Then what? How do you toss those coins, or do you just toss them in the bin?
You just toss them.
That's right. That's right. So there you go. Cool. You got any other questions or comments about the news? Anything we might not have covered, or something a bit more controversial that we haven't covered in today?
Well, you might end up with your semi before your Cybertruck going on tonight's news.
Oh, what's that, Pete? What about the Cybertruck?
Well, that's not in production yet, is it? Whereas the semi will be delivered to Pepsi by 1st of December, or just early December. So you don't know what's going to happen there, although I think export would be a bit of an issue, but who knows?
Frustratingly, you can actually order the Tesla Semi in the UK today.
Okay.
So, but you can't in Australia because of our width regulations. So, look. Well, I think that. Well, actually, look, they should. There's nothing stopping the Semi apart from the width. But once that gets fixed, because Australia's all but agreed to it in principle, and because the Semi's got the central steering position, there's really nothing you need to change for an international shipment. I did hear
a huge advantage.
Oh, yes.
Huge advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the perfect steering position. There's no offset. There's no you just aim for the center of the road, and you've got equal vision both sides of the cab, so it's perfect.
Is there any pictures or anything of the sleeping arrangement in the Semi?
I did. I haven't got the video to hand, but I did see someone taking video of the door being open, and they looked inside, and actually there is no sleeper cab. All right, and it did show what sort of looked like jump seats in the back. I think they could fold upwards, but there wasn't a big.
There was one on each side of the driver's seat.
Yes,
there wasn't one behind it, but one on each side.
Well, no, yeah, that's correct. So, and they looked like jump seats, like in aeroplanes, they could fold up out of the way, but there wasn't a very big gap between the back of the front seat and the back of the cab. At most, it was probably 60 centimeters, 70 centimeters, maybe. It wasn't
about the size of most truck drivers' guts, so I don't have to sit back there.
But given the range of those, they're probably not intended for sleepers because they're 300 and 500 mile. They probably don't need sleepers. They probably haven't factored that in yet.
Yeah, you might need a sleep while you're recharging though.
Yeah, could do.
Well, it's only 20 minutes. It takes 20 minutes to get 300 miles.
If you're traveling long distances, you don't want to have to stop at a hotel. Like you got enough range or whatever. You still want to have a break and go, all right, this is where I'm sleeping tonight. And then you go again, right? So maybe that's not a thing in other countries. Maybe it's unique to Australia.
Yeah, well, that could be true, Russell. Or maybe you swap. Do you swap drivers?
Truck stops, don't you? In the US, see the truck stops or the trucks parked up with their beds and stuff in the back. I'm pretty sure I've seen that on movies.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are sleeper cabs definitely in America. I mean, there's long haul trucking and there's sort of shorter haul. I mean, in Australia, most of it's very long haul. Although, you know, like Sydney, Melbourne, that's only 1,000 k's, so that's a
Overnighter.
day trip. That's an overnighter. Um, but look, they could certainly make a sleeper version. I mean, you just take away the two back seats and you just have a bunk bed instead. You know, yeah. But when on Twitter, when you saw the video, there wasn't a lot of space in that configuration. But that's
Do you
not to
think
say.
Do you think that potentially they'll sell their own trailer with additional battery packs lumped under the trailer as well?
I couldn't agree more. I don't. I think that's not just a good idea. I reckon that's just obvious. Like I think. Well, look. Obviously, to be honest, I have zero knowledge of trucking. I presume it's very common that the prime mover is the company's truck. Oh, yeah, that's your product, and you just drag anyone's standard trailer, and trailers can mix and match, and you know, you've got road trains where you've got 3 trailers. Oh, there, yeah, there you go.
Can you see it?
Yes. Actually, that's a fair bit of. Well, I'll take that back. That's actually a fair bit of room. Can you try and pause it sort of about
there?
There? That's a little bit more. Just go a bit more forward. That's actually not terrible. I mean, for a sleeper cab, I mean, only a single size bed. You know, you could.
What's those horizontal lines in the back? Is that just the?
I think it's just design elements. It's just.
What's that? What about that bulkhead up there?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that bit up the top could come down. Yeah.
Could that be? Wouldn't be an air conditioner.
You wouldn't have enough height.
What you could do is all you need is a plank that would bridge the gap between the 2 seats, and then whack a mattress on it, and then you've got a bed.
Yeah, look, I think sleeper cabs aren't that salubrious. If you just got rid of those seats altogether, I'm sure you could put stuff there that would work. Yeah.
I think the only reason why you don't have a 3rd seat behind the driver's seat is to enable you to sort of basically walk around that driver's seat and get in from either side.
Yeah, look, I don't think there'd be a problem converting that into a sleeper because, look, for instance, you could move that if you just stop it there, Pete. That the back of that front seat, you could angle that forwards and out of the way, and then you just need a fold down bunk type thing. So no, that's actually plenty of space. I'll take that back. Yeah, no, that would work definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Just can't wait to get one.
500-mile range, right? That's what they're at fully loaded, 82,000 pounds, 85,000 pounds, which is like close on 40 tons. Yeah?
Yes.
So you'd want to think that 500-mile range, I mean, it's probably going to be a little bit less than that. You'd probably expect due to, like, you know, wind and temperature and the road surface and things. So maybe drop it down to say 450 or something, where you're looking at around maybe 700 kilometers of range. So 700 kilometers of range. Would a normal truck driver go from Melbourne to Sydney in one trip? Would that be
easily?
Oh yes, but they have to rest. They have rest periods, so they
So it would be a situation where
they have mandatory rest periods.
Yeah, so in that trip from Melbourne to Sydney, I'm assuming that'd be like one rest stop along the way. Like that's probably that far.
Every 4 hours.
4 hours.
So two rest periods, and during that 20-minute rest period, you can recover. I think it was 300 miles in the video they said.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. So there's no need for a bigger battery than from what they're describing. So the need to have it under the trailer itself is irrelevant.
No, but what I'm thinking of is, for instance, again, I'm ignorant, but the implication is that in America, that a prime mover only carries one trailer. That's it. You just carry the one semi-trailer that's 40 tons. That's job done. Whereas in Australia, we have B doubles, we have B triples, we have
Yeah.
road trains. You can have 3 semi-trailers, full-length semi-trailers in a road train in upper WA, in the northwest.
So over 100 tons, they're pulling over 100 tons at a time.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So obviously the semi couldn't do that for any meaningful distance. Well, sorry, not necessarily meaningless distance, but couldn't do it for 800 k's or 700 k's.
Yeah.
But then, if you've got to stop every 4 hours, you can only travel 400 k's absolute maximum. So if you could get 400, yeah, whatever. I mean, I could see a use case where Tesla might find an advantage in actually having a self-propelled or semi-self-propelled trailer that helps along under the control of the prime mover.
Yeah. And you could even have that battery is charged on its own trailer as well, so you could simultaneously charge them all rather than having to charge it through like in series or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, or you could just have a supercharger outlet station whereby you have you park the truck in the front and it hooks up to the front supercharger, and then your trailers hook onto
just spaced out the right size.
Spaced out, to the correct distance roughly of a road train or a B double or whatever. And look, that's again, Elon's watching, so that's something that Tesla should consider, because they've got all the smarts to be able to integrate that all seamlessly, so that it helps it along.
The battery pack that's in the semi at the moment seems to fit in. You can't really even see it there. It's so like in there. You got so much more space under the bottom of these trailers. You could fit much easier.
Tons.
And then if you then put potentially drive motors on the trailer as well, you'd probably even get more efficiency as well, rather than trying to drag this thing along.
Yes, it's pushing itself.
Or dirt roads where you're struggling to get traction, you could pull the trailers through. And some of those roads, I think, are limited to certain trailer sizes because they can't handle the terrain because it's so bad. It could be like all-wheel drive essentially for the trailer.
Well, I saw a documentary. It was a story or whatever it was, current affairs type story of they were installing wind turbines somewhere in rural New South Wales, and this site they had to go up a hill or whatever, and they were just losing traction because these things are super heavy, and it's only the prime mover that's got the traction. So I was just going to say, So if you had, it's like those. Is it called Mammoth? You got those self-propelled doodads. It's just a milder version of something like that. And your brakes, because obviously a lot of your braking on trucks you've got to do on the trailer, because otherwise you'll jackknife the truck. Although Tesla's already said they've got anti-jackknifing technology connected with autopilot. So if you actually had in-hub motors in the trailers, then all of the braking would be regenerative. It'd be awesome.
So what about, I can see situations where it's difficult to hook up trailers from accessibility, or someone's not quite right at reversing in. If you could actually have some dolly wheels that come down on these trailers, and you can then use your mobile phone to drive the trailer into the truck rather than trying to reverse the truck into the trailer. Just like how I reversed my car out of my garage with my enhanced autopilot, you could theoretically load the trailers into each other rather than having to sequence them in a different order. Need an extra one, just drive it into it rather than trying to reverse 2 trailers back and connect to another one.
And you could do that while the actual semi is still charging, so you wouldn't have to take it off charge. You could leave it there to charge while you're navigating the trailer
around and stuff. Taking 2 off, put another one on or something.
The other 2 advantages that the semi has is, one, I think by law, whether it's adhered to or not is another question, but by law, the truck driver, when he's refueling, he can't leave the Bowser unattended. So he's got, and it takes, 20 minutes to refuel a semi? It's a long time.
Yeah, it's a fair time.
So whereas with the semi, once he plugs it in, he can walk off and start his brake. So that's,
or he can
that's
walk
one
off
of the-
and check his tyres at the same time, which otherwise he'd have to do sequentially. So he can do something else that he needs to do. And yeah, effectively, you're right, Pete. He's saving,
gotta
if
have
he
a
saves
car now.
10, 15 minutes, that's his break time that he can use as proper rest time and not fudge the diary or it's a true rest break.
Yeah, or
Yep.
watch
You
YouTube
can
on
have
his
a power
Starlink
nap.
that's built in.
So say again, Russell?
Use Starlink on his YouTube and everything built into the semi. You
Well,
want
he
to
can
think they come out
establish,
with
he can
Starlink,
improve
don't
his YouTube presence and build his channel
Yeah.
popularity.
You'd want to think that the semi would come out with inbuilt Starlink at some point. I mean, it's like, going through areas that no one else would drive through. You wouldn't think there'd be much internet out there.
Well, that's
And-
pretty much all GPS tracking
what-
anyway now.
Oh, sorry,
what
Pete.
you have-
Wait, Pete. Sorry, Peter Ship, go. You're going to say something?
Pretty much all GPS controlled now anyway, because if they go 103, they can get away, I think 107 3 times they're sacked. So they're all strictly controlled now, not only by the monitoring on board, but the GPS as well. And some of that's for
Yeah, the
security.
GPS is one thing, but it's still not internet. Like anyone can get GPS anywhere, right?
Yes. Yep.
It's,
Although I wonder, I heard someone say to me the other day that something very interesting that was implying that, how in Europe you've got the emergency phone system. If you have an emergency, you press a button. It's near your hazard button on the ceiling of the car at the front, top of your windscreen. And it's a requirement in the EU that all cars have this, or all new cars have this. And this person I was talking to said that that's connected to the GLONASS system. And I thought that was very interesting because GLONASS is actually the Russian version of GPS. But the implication might have been that you could actually make voice calls through the GLONASS system, perhaps.
or is it just like an EPIRB?
Mark, but the Europeans have got their own system. I can't remember what it's called. But GLONASS is
Galileo. They've got
right, yeah.
Galileo, but this person that spoke to me about it mentioned GLONASS. Now you could be right, Russell. Maybe it's just effectively like an EPIRB, but I'm not exactly certain. But anyway, getting back to the thing, initially I thought, well, the Tesla Semi's got the cowling, the aerodynamic cowling at the top that that lines up with your trailer, like container or whatever. But of course, now we know that Starlink doesn't have to be gimbaled on anything; it can just be flat. So you can just mount Starlink on the flat part of the roof of anything. And in fact, the cowling is made of fiberglass or whatever, so that's transparent to radio waves. So you can just mount it on the roof of the cab. I mean, we already know it works. Starlink works unmodified on the glass roof of a Model Y. It also works unmodified on the glass roof of a Model X on the interior. So, and that's at full size. You don't need 200 megabits per second. If you cut that rectangular dish in half, I presume you'd probably get roughly half the performance, sort of, basically. So you could have something that's not even the size of an A4 sheet of paper, flat, mounted, and bear in mind the actual printed circuit board inside that terminal is only about 15 millimeters tall. So you could just mount that on the flat of anything, and it'll work. So I reckon there ought to be a Starlink option for Cybertruck. Without having to bother to put it in the bed, you just put it on the roof. And well, Elon Musk did say that Tesla would use. Oh, how they're going to do the Starlink version 3 satellites, which have got the massive antennas for the GSM band, or some frequency in the GSM band, for direct to Earth mobile phone communications. And Elon Musk said that Tesla would use that, but they could also, they're also talking with Apple, because Apple, the new iPhones have an emergency service where you've got to aim the phone in the direction of a certain satellite, to have direct communication, very low baud rate. It looks like Starlink are interested in interacting with Apple to have direct to Starlink internet through phones. So look, I think all the cars in the next 3 years will probably have Starlink as an option, or just built in.
Just as an emergency service, at least.
Oh no, I
Well,
don't
maybe
know.
for your-
I think they'll have it as, rather than using mobile phone coverage for your premium connectivity, why not use Starlink, because it's all in the ecosystem.
Yeah, but in the city, you just wouldn't have enough bandwidth.
Oh, so, true, yes, and also you'd have obstructions in the actual centre of the city. That's right. So you'd have to have a dual system whereby to be. Although, having said that, in the old days, when Peter Shipp was a younger surveyor, he would have had a piece of equipment that probably cost $100,000, probably took an hour to warm up, and if you're lucky, got, I don't know, a metre or so accuracy, and with differential maybe a couple of inches. And if you're in a forested area or anything built up, you had zero chance of anything. Well, our phones, GPS, work in many buildings, and that was just unheard of 25 years ago. Literally, it was you'd be laughed at. You can use GPS on your phone in an aeroplane, which is and many of them are aluminium, or at least they're metallized bodies that GPS should never work out of, but it does, just because it leaks in through the windows.
You won't get through wet pine trees, but other than that, it's pretty hard to stop that signal. It takes a fair bit.
Yeah, yep, exactly. And like I said, that was it's like Bluetooth was considered. People are using Bluetooth in ways that were never intended. They go much further than ever was intended. So I think the Starlink stuff that'll happen as well. So eventually, we probably will have a mobile phone with perhaps a flip out antenna, like the back will flip or something, if you wanted pretty good communications, just straight to Starlink. And the cars, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't Tesla mount a mini terminal in every car?
They'd get reflected signals off buildings and everything. So even the big high-rise cities, I don't think would pose much of a problem. You might get the odd glitch, but I think on the whole, you would get pretty good coverage.
Yeah, actually, and I couldn't agree more, Pete. I think that's exactly right, because that's how GPS is working too, and that's how Wi-Fi works as well. So it doesn't matter about all the reflections and ghosting. As long as you get a signal of sorts, it's good enough.
Well, when also the receivers were probably 2'6" wide by 18 inches and 6 inches deep. You couldn't carry them by hand; you had to take them by vehicle. So, and now it's built into your phone. It's just an a minor addition. The transformation is unbelievable.
It's not even a cubic centimeter of volume inside your phone. It's a fractal antenna that caters for GPS, GSM, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. Everything's all built into the one module.
Unbelievable, yeah. So that's a simple progression, I think. And we see it as complex now, but it'll just happen as through matter of course.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So all our cars will have Starlink built in the next 3 to 5 years.
I think that's just a natural progression.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. Well, that's the future. I can't wait. But yeah, I do hope the Cybertruck hurries up. Anyway, I guess we all know it's going to be 2025, or did you say 25, Pete, or 26? I think you're saying 26. Sorry, Pete Petrosky.
Sooner than that. No.
Oh, what, into Australia?
Yes. Well, because he can swim now, Harold, so he might be able to swim straight to our big island. If Tesla wants to hold it back, it will be able to self-drive, so it might be able to self-swim itself to Australia.
Yes. Don't know if it'll be cheaper, but it might need a few charging stops on the way.
Well, it'll have solar panels on the on the what's it called? The
tonneau
cover.
Tonneau cover, yeah. The vault, yeah, to cover the vault.
The vault. Yeah.
Well, you've
Deary
seen what
me.
they've done to the Aptera. They've got solar panels on the roof, the dash, the boot. That looks like a
Yes.
very good option. Rosie wants me to put an order in for one of those, but I've been a bit reluctant. But that looks fantastic. The potential on that is very, very good.
Yeah,
1600
interestingly,
kilometer range.
have you seen their website where you actually put in where you live and it has different climate conditions, as in hours of sunlight in a year?
Oh,
And
yes.
if you put in the tropics, it says you don't need to charge your car ever for a year if you do 15,000 Ks a year or whatever it was. And if you're in different other climates, you may have to have 2 charges per year. And I think the worst was like if you live in Norway or something, you need 4 charges per year. But I think they're being a bit, I think that's a little bit like Tesla saying that, a Model Y can get 455 Ks WLTP. And,
Yes.
if you're on a crappy road, you're struggling to get, 300 and something. But I might be gilding the lily.
They're certainly looking fairly smart.
Yes.
Obviously, it depends how you drive that thing, though, because they're talking about 0 to 100K in 3.5 seconds, which is only a tiny bit slower than the Model 3 Performance. So
wow.
If you drive it like you stole it, I think you'll be charging a bit more than once a year.
Yes,
but that's the same with anything, Pete, to be honest. If you flog the guts out of your range drops and quite dramatically, even a petrol car, diesel car, same thing. Well, not so much diesel, but certainly petrol.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that Aptera or whatever is interesting. Yeah, I mean, it looks a bit weird with its 3 wheels. It's very Jetsons sort of esque.
It is,
but
yes.
very slippery. It's got a very low coefficient of drag. So yeah, it's certainly interesting.
It's a lot lower than the Teslas, but then it's a different type of car. But it looks interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a 2-seater, isn't it? Isn't it a 2-seater?
I think so. Yeah.
One behind the other.
But you could sleep in the back. It's quite long, even though your feet room wouldn't be real high, but you'd have enough room easily to camp in the back.
But you'd want tie-down straps if there's a cyclone or or any big storm,
Yeah.
But it's certainly interesting. But look, Teslas won't have solar panels because there's just not enough surface area, and like even an efficient Model 3 needs about 11 kilowatts to keep driving.
It's going to take a lot of panels.
That's a lot. Well, you need, at 25% panel efficiency, you need 44 square meters, and a car just doesn't cover 44 square meters. So anyway, but it's an interesting thought. It certainly is. And I mean, look, the solar challenge cars, which are really just glorified push bikes, they make it virtually only on sunlight. So, but not very comfortably.
It'll be interesting to see the progression in range, I think, but it's going to take a lot of development in a number of areas, I think, to get that.
Yeah, absolutely. But, solar panels are getting better and better. I think they're getting up to 30%, I think.
Yeah.
And they keep making them better and better each decade. So who really knows? All right, have we got any other questions or comments? We're getting a bit later in. I think it's quarter past 10 in Perth. Anything else?
Quick question about the Powerwall.
Yes, Bilal.
Powerwall, I heard that has a capacity of 7.5 kilowatt, but it only takes half of the what you call kilowatts through the solar, and then half of it has to be from grid. Is that right?
It's got a 7 kilowatt discharge capacity, but that's only for it's only a burst. It's only for a short period of time. It's 5 kilowatts, but more importantly, you'll be governed down by Western Power. So if you've got a 3 kilowatt connection, a 3-phase connection, they'll govern you down to 3 kilowatts.
Okay, if for example, if mine is single phase and I've got 6.5 or 6.6 kilowatt solar with 5 kilowatt inverter.
Yeah, you'll be able to use the 5 kilowatts full continuous and 7 kilowatts in bursts.
Yeah.
So during the daytime, of course, you can, if your solar is cranking, you can then draw, 5 kilowatts from your solar inverter and 7 peak from your Powerwall for a short period of time, or 5 continuous from your Powerwall. So you could pull 10 kilowatts for a while during the middle of the day, but at night time you could only pull 5 or 7 peak before pulling anything from the grid, providing there was energy in the Powerwall that was still left.
Yeah. Someone told me that they have a power wall, but to charge the power wall, for whatever reason, it's only charging like half of the capacity, let's say 7 kilowatts. So 3.5 from the solar and 3.5 from the grid to charge the power wall.
No,
That doesn't sound right. No, that doesn't sound right, because the Powerwall only has an AC connection. There's no the version 2 Powerwalls don't have a DC input, so it's not like
it's AC.
It's not pulling. It's AC coupled. So that's not correct. Unless
what could
it had
be the reason?
Unless they go, Russell.
Yeah. So is it possible that they the Powerwall itself is realizing it needs more power to survive, at higher cost times, and it will automatically pull power from the grid if it knows it's cheaper?
Then maybe the solar production was down, and it's
like if it look at your usage habits.
So Russell, what mine will do is, because we're on the midday saver with Synergy, so if the Powerwalls, so say we've got the solars coming in, but it's maybe not too strong, maybe getting about 2 or 3 kilowatts, and then say we charge the cars and or the bike or whatever, anyway, draw a load of power. If the Powerwall works out that because it knows that from 3 p.m. it's expensive power, what it will do is it will draw off the grid as well as drawing off the solar to make sure that it is 100% before it hits that 3 p.m. And it's actually every time I've looked at it and gone, nah, it's never going to make that, and it always does. The algorithm is incredible. So that might be what's being talked about here.
Yeah, that's all I can think of.
Yeah,
that would make sense.
And I thought that the actual units are bigger than that, though. It's not. The actual capacity is 13
kilowatt hours.
Kilowatt hours.
It's
13.5 kilowatt hours usable.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And 14 in total.
Yeah.
But what Bilal was referring to was kilowatts, as in the output and input power.
The only time I've ever actually seen ours go above that was when the grid disconnected, and then I think it went used, I don't know, 5.7 or something like that. But I've never ever seen it higher than 5 unless the grid's disconnected.
Yeah. I've got a DC battery, a DC coupled battery, not a AC one. So I can like today, for example, my panels were generating 9 kilowatts, and I was able to take 5 of it, or 5.5 through my house, and then another 4.5 or whatever it was straight to the battery. So I wasn't actually having to shed anything. It was taking the whole amount, which is I guess one advantage of a DC. But the downside is that I don't have the software to manage the management.
And that's something that really isn't appreciated, I think, until you actually do it. It's just how smart it is and how customizable. I've been very really impressed.
I wonder, am I allowed to get a DC set up? So I've got two 30 kilowatt hours of DC, like straight DC. Am I allowed to now go get another Powerwall as well and add that because it's an AC one? Is that all right, or am I not allowed to do that?
I think there have been issues in the past with mixing AC and DC batteries. I know that they couldn't, because my mum back in the UK had the original version 1 Powerwall, which was DC coupled, and I wanted them to add the Powerwall 2, which was AC coupled, and they said no, we've had issues with doing it, but that was quite a few years ago, so maybe that's been solved.
All right.
I think what it would do was that it was weird, like the AC Powerwall would see the DC Powerwall as a load, or is it the other way around? But so basically one would just be continue trying to charge the other
one. Yeah, like plug a UPS back into itself.
Yeah, but I mean, it sounds to me like something that could be fixed with software. So
yeah, okay.
That's better than cold fusion, isn't it, Russell? If you put the output of a UPS to the input of the UPS, you just get infinite power. It just blow
I did
up.
it by mistake here at my house, and man, the noise it made.
Just put an alternator on the Tesla.
So, or you could just get like some sort of like exercise bike set up where you put the wheels on like a treadmill thing and just like.
What, like also in the car? And then it's like Fred Flintstone.
But with my battery, they announced earlier this year they were going to be releasing like smart AI sort of add-on packages or whatever, and they're also releasing chargers that link in with it as well, which do single phase and 3-phase swap overs.
Yep.
So it can pick up like how much is coming through and decide whether it needs to be single phase or 3-phase.
Yep.
Haven't seen any of it yet, so it could all just be crap.
No, it's easy to do, Russell. I've made my own chargers that do exactly that. If you need to throttle down even further, it just briefly disconnects, isolates phase L2 and L3, and then goes to single phase. Because when they designed what was the J1772 standard, which was a single phase standard, they thought that nothing less than 6 amps was useful. So they had 6 amps was the minimum, up to 64 amps. Oh, actually, I think more than that. Sorry, I think it might even go up to 80 amps on the pulse width modulated signal. But of course, when you convert that to 3-phase, they didn't then reduce it to less than 6 amps. But 6 amps 3-phase is actually a lot of power.
Well, it's 5 now, doesn't it? 5 amps, isn't it?
The car does, but the EVSE standard, its minimum permissible offered current is 6 amps.
Yeah, okay.
The car, you can tell the car to draw less than that. You can go down to 5. And in fact, the car routinely does 1 amp, because when the car's fully charged, if you've got the aircon on, it'll just draw from shore power, basically, just enough to cover its own expenditure and not draw or charge from, or charge the battery. But under the EVSE standard, when you look at the pulse width modulated signal, its minimum duty cycle lines up with offering 6 amps. It's just that when they built the standard, 15 years ago or whenever it was, they just didn't contemplate 3-phase and other things and solar and stuff.
2 questions on that. Firstly, is there any reason why our car couldn't theoretically have decimal increments of our amperage? So 5.5.
It doesn't. Yeah, and it doesn't. I've tested this because in this EVSE we've made, when we were doing solar dribbling into the car, so measuring what's surplus and what you want to put into the car, we actually do it as decimals and have a sliding scale. But the car basically interprets it like notches, like stairs. So it just averages. It rounds to the nearest amp.
Yeah. But if I'm manually controlling it through my app and say, all right, I don't want 6 amps. I want 6.2 amps.
The car could do it if it wanted to. Yes, it's within its ability to do that.
Yeah, so that's just a user interface thing they haven't given.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's quite a big step. Like going from 6 to 7, that's like another essentially single phase, another 15 amp supply you're putting right on. Sorry.
Well, it's another 200.
Another 3.
It's 240 watts. Every amp in single phase is 240 watts. Every amp in 3-phase is 700 and whatever,
Yeah.
50 watts,
So what
roughly.
happens with me is I can sit on 6 amp, 3 phase, but then if I want to put a little bit more in, it goes over my 5.5 threshold. So I got to like,
Yes.
yeah. But then if I'm, I don't know, doing the washing or something, I can't go
You
below
reduce.
5, so I can't do anything. So the second question is, can I modify retrospectively my Tesla HPWC to output single phase and 3 phase on the same thing, or am I locked into 3 phase with my device now?
So the HPWC, it's the one unit, and if you just feed it with single phase, so just L1 and neutral and earth, it'll just output single phase.
But
if
I'm
you,
a 3 phase house, so I can't hook it up.
I know.
Yeah.
No, and you shouldn't, because the problem there is if it's single phase, it will allow the car to draw up to 32 amps on that single phase, which the car will happily do, and that violates stuff.
I understand.
But what you could do is you could set the current limit on the rotary switch of the HPWs. If it's, have you got a grey one, a silver one, or a white one?
No, mine's the newer one.
The newer one. Okay, so in that case, it'd probably be a Wi-Fi setting on its web page, or configuration.
Yeah, but I want to be able to take 11 kilowatt. Sorry, I want to be able to take 16 amp 3 phase when I want, but then also I want to tap it down to say 10 amps instead of 10 amp single phase instead of
So you can't really do it because the car's charger can only draw. It itself can't decide to draw only one of the 3 phases that are being offered, and the HPWC only has a simple contactor, internal contactor, that switches all loads simultaneously.
Okay.
Right. So for instance, in the charge that I made, I've actually got 2 contactors. One that switches L1, and the other one's and neutral, and the other one switches L2 and 3. So because I've got 2 different contactors, I can decide whether to feed the car single phase or 3 phase. The HPWC can't do that, and the car's onboard charger, I don't think can decide to not charge. I don't think so.
Yeah, because that's what these other smart ones must do. So the brand that I have the battery of, there isn't their charger. It has single phase, 3 phase crossover. That's what they're describing there, right? With 2 separate contactors. Like
you've got to have, you can't defy physics. You've got to have 2 separate contactors.
That's what they're doing there.
Yep, and I worked this out 3 years ago when I built mine. That's exactly what you had to do, and you actually have to have like a changeover time. You have to actually tell the car to stop charging, and it stops pulling power. You then drop the whole car off effectively, and then you bring it back either in a single phase only or 3 phase. And
so that potentially the next generation of Tesla ones will do that as well. You'd want to think.
No, because Tesla aren't big into 3 phase. Just look at Powerwalls. They still haven't built a 3 phase Powerwall, even though all of the Powerwalls that you have, the single phase ones, all the ones in Australia are split phase. They are 120 volt, 180 degree out of phase, split phase Powerwalls. So if you look inside when they connect them, there would be a neutral that's never connected, and they just connect our neutral to one of their phases, and the other phase is active because they're all split phase inverters. It's just the same US standard 240 volt single phase, but in America you get them as split phase, so you get 120 either end and a neutral.
Yeah, okay.
So Tesla unfortunately haven't prioritized 3 phase markets at all, which is code for they've just ignored it, or they've just, or they're not, or they're not. Oh, there's 3. I don't know. Yes, I think so. No, I do think so, because their car inlets, they've got GBT or something and something else, and they do have 3 phase because they use the Maniki's connector, but they use it backwards. So they bend the gender, so the car has the car's inlet is what we would use as the plug, and what they use as the plug is our car inlet for
Yeah.
the AC part of Maniki's. They've just basically bent the gender back. They've reversed the gender on the plugs and the sockets for the AC part, but they've also separated. So in China, the DC it's a bit like saying there's Chatamo for DC and there's Maniki's for AC, and they've got two separate connectors. It's not combined like CCS.
Yeah.
But yeah, China does have, so China does have
They
three
do.
phase.
It
And bearing in
says-
mind, all countries have three phase on their main distribution. It's just in America they decide to have split phase for the house. So, but in the high voltage stuff is three phase,
Yeah. Okay.
whatever the voltage is.
Yeah. Actually, there's some good videos about that on the engineering connect the what's it called? Engineering connections, is it? No.
Yes.
What's his name?
No, technology connect.
Technology connections. Yeah.
Yeah.
He
Yes.
does some good ones about single phase with kettles and things.
Yes, exactly. That's right. Yeah, and basically saying that an American 240 volt kettle isn't that much worse. No, sorry, the 110 volt isn't that much worse than the 240 for various reasons. Because in America you have to derate. Oh yeah, whatever. It's yeah, it is sort of interesting. But yeah, three phase is the best because we can get 11 kilowatts and you know the iPaces and Hyundais with single phase charging get 7.6. So, each to their own. Cool. Well, now we've bored everyone with that deep dive. Have we got anything else before we may go to bed? Given
Can
that
you
it's
put it on stop for 1 second?
oh yeah, all right. Apologies for everyone in YouTube land. 2 seconds. This one. And we're back. That was a great show, Russell. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks for that. That was awesome. Sorry, everyone in YouTube land missed it. Oh, okay. Hang on. Oh, really?
Yeah,
Do we have to do this
you gotta
again?
hear it, you gotta hear it. It's really funny.
Okay, all right. Okay, 2 seconds. Hang on. Oof. I don't even know what to say after that one. Welcome back, YouTubers. Thanks. I'm glad you stuck around. All right. So, last drinks for any last little bits before we wrap this show up. I think we're probably going to be all good. Oh, so let me just readjust myself here. Whoops, sorry. I've just lost Zoom.
Must be morning where you are.
Yeah, it is. I'm ahead of the. I actually am ahead of the curve. Yes, I'm going to be tired tomorrow, but I mean I'm just a bag man. So it's my wife she's already in bed, obviously, and she's the one that's doing all the conference stuff. I'm just carrying the luggage and just driving around aimlessly around Gold Coast or wherever I am. Yeah, Gold Coast. All right, so Pete, how would you round out an awesome show like this?
As always, stay safe, stay sustainable, and stay ahead of the curve.
And the best way to do that is buy a Tesla, join Tokla, and ask us anything about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy.
And making the world awesome.
Exactly.
Making the future awesome. Sorry.
That's it. Couldn't agree more.
What's that, Peter?
You're staying out of sight. You've got your camera a bit skewed tonight.
Oh, sorry. Bit late now.
Absolutely. All right. Good night, everyone. Look forward to seeing you again on Ask Us Anything next Wednesday. And on YouTube, thanks everyone for watching for so long. Look forward to seeing you next week.
So have a
good night, everyone.
Good night,
Will
guys.
do. Thank you. Cheers. Good night.
Good night.